fucking spacewalk. God, cinematic walking will be forever the worst thing to come out of video games since Gears of War. Nothing worse has happened in video games. Nothing. Microtransactions, not as bad as cinematic walking.
I don't know if it's since, but tap A to run is definitely worse.
Nope, tap A to run is not worse. That's just a bad mechanic.
No. See, this is why tap A to run is worse. Because tap A to run makes you work for your moment of stupid. Cinematic walking just takes... You don't have to do anything except press forward. Tap A to run...
No, it feels awful. At least tap A to run feels awful, but it's just bad design. Like, I can live... Bad design can be fixed. Cinematic walking refuses to die.
It is bad design, though. In tap A to run, you're pushing a button to be annoyed.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway.
Gagan defending tap A to run.
I know, I never thought I would see that.
Because cinematic walking is just that bad.
You push him into these corners where he has to defend the Konami tax.
Like, no, that should be our one's gotta go, one's gotta stay, tap A to run, or cinematic walking. Welcome to episode 66 of the Endless Backlog Podcast, your number one amateur hour podcast as told by me, your beacon of truth, reminding you that you shouldn't be responsible for the death of fun in video games. You should be listening to Gagan so you can help save this shitty-ass industry from its bullshit. I am your host, Gagan Deep Singh. Joining me is Christopher Compton.
What's up, everybody?
And William Berger.
Yo, how's it going?
I don't know. Kind of felt like I wanted to mess with the intro because at this point I don't even know what our proper intro is, but it's just a thing.
I don't know if we ever had a proper intro.
I think the only constant is hope all is well where you are.
Maybe.
Hello and welcome to.
It's almost like we don't have a script.
Yeah, it's almost like we make it up as we go, which we should. You know, I guess that's what helps us be the Amateur Hour podcast.
I mean, at least it feels like you're listening to people having a conversation as opposed to people trying to remember their lines.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough. What did everybody do this past weekend, for the most part?
Got my costume already.
Nah, yeah, same. I bought a new costume.
What are you being?
Grim Reaper.
Nice. Classic.
Grim Reaper's a classic. Never mess with the Reaper.
No. Are you gonna play Blue Oyster Cult while you...
Ooh, I should. It's so on the nose, though.
It's so on the nose.
But it's almost like, why would you mess with perfection? Blue Oyster Cult made the perfect song for this costume.
Just have a boombox in your butt or something.
Well, in my case, I have to work at the restaurant on Halloween night because I was off, but one of the moms, right? She wanted off because her kid's pretty young. She's like, I want to take my kid out. And I was like, wow, you people are scumbags. You will not pick up her shift. Yeah. I was like, I'll do it because it's a good reason.
Honestly, Halloween isn't one of those holidays where you're like, oh, I need to spend it with my family or my friend. You just need to be around people.
Yeah.
As long as you're around people, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's true.
So like, the rule at Carrabba's is, at least ours, is if everyone dresses up, fine, you can all dress up. However, if one person comes in fucking work clothes, like the servers or the bartender.
Yeah.
No one better be dressed up. And it's like, that's so annoying. So like we all have to make sure with each other. This one girl was like, "Wait, we're dressing up." I was like, "No. We all bought costumes. You better get a costume by next Saturday."
That'd be so annoying if one person ruined it.
Well, that's basically how I got conned into getting a costume this year.
Pretty sure there's no way. No one's really questioned the way that our boss is going to enforce it. And I'm like, there's no way he could really enforce this once we're all here. Because even if Halloween is slow, he's not going to exactly send 7 servers home and leave that one person on. But, you know, it is what it is.
Maybe they just dressed up as a server. That's their costume.
Oh, yeah. You always make this. People always make that joke, or I came in as comfortable man. And it's like, listen, no one's comfortable in more clothes. Let's speak for you.
Comfortable man.
Other than that, no weekend of decent drinking. I started uploading my Rocket League playthroughs with Ben.
I've been watching those.
I've seen... Wait till you get to some of our nail biters, Chris. some of these rewatching them literally had me sitting going like, oh my god, this is so tight.
It's almost like I don't remember if we win or lose.
I don't remember if we lost this one. There was one where we were in overtime, and that overtime must have been 2 to 3 minutes long.
Oh my
Like,
god.
it was just back and forth volleys.
I've had games like that. Have you ever, like, in a game, saved a replay, not played the game for a while or something, come back, and, like, you're watching through it trying to remember why you saved the replay, and then you just get involved in the game, and you're like, oh my am I gonna lose this game?
Yeah. Well, no, it's funny, because, like, that's how I've been feeling going back, because the videos I uploaded are from August.
Oh, yeah, so.
So, it's actually been a while, and I'm like, oh my god, these matches. And then Ben's, like, in awe that I play that game without ball cam.
What?
I don't play that game with ball cam.
I exclusively play it with ball
Yeah,
cam.
people play that game exclusively. I'm like, I play a free cam. It just feels weird to me in ball cam.
That's
but
crazy.
I've started using it more because I feel like it's easier to get those angle shots.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because with the ball cam snapped to you, it's kind of hard to see where the net is in relation to where the ball is.
Yeah.
I get that.
So it is.
That's how you know you're moving up the echelons of skill.
Oh yeah, it's gotten to a point where I tell Ben, I was like, at this point, our only real weakness, I mean, whatever, there's people better than us, but when we really have an issue is when the other team can absolutely hit aerials.
Oh yeah, then that you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, because it's not even that they make goals with the aerials; it's that they allow. What happens is because they can hit the ball
Before it hits the ground.
Before it hits the ground, it gives them so many opportunities to keep the ball on your side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's just hard to score that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If they're always knocking it away from you, you can be the best goalie in the world. You just can't touch the ball.
Yeah. So that stuff's fun, but that game is.
Ben isn't the biggest problem.
Ben's better than me at that game.
You better cut that out of this podcast.
I mean, listen. At some point, I call spades a spades. You know, I don't ever. You know, I love myself, but I don't overrate myself.
He admits that I'm better than him in Halo.
I admit that he's better than me at Halo 3.
See, Gagan's always got those.
Listen. So here's the thing. I think Halo Reach, for instance, a lot of the decisions they made with that game spoke to people who played like me in the sense that, like, it forced you to spread out a bit and play a bit more from a distance with the DMR because you could. Whereas,
I'm a rough and tumble.
Chris is very up close and personal, and in Halo Reach, it was like, you know.
Can't do that.
Yeah, no,
especially with armor lock shenanigans.
Yeah, exactly. Armor Lock ruined close quarters in that game in a lot of ways.
Ruined me.
And that's where, like, the base speed of Halo 3, where, like, once Chris would, like, I could kill Chris in Halo 3 from like, if it's a straight BR battle with, like, medium to long range, I'm kicking his ass every time. I don't care what he thinks. However, Halo 3 is not played primarily medium to long distances, if you really think about it. It's all up-close stuff, usually, and in those instances, Chris was pretty quick on all that stuff, so.
I had a similar thing with a friend of mine that I usually played with. I was good at longer stuff. He was good at closer stuff. I did better in Reach than he did.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, because I feel like Halo 5 will enhance the things Chris does. At the same time, I question it as well, because, like, I'm still not sure how this whole pistol start over a BR start is gonna work.
Is there still, like, a DMR, a BM?
There's a BR on a max. Okay, so I guess we're just gonna sit to the Halo 5 part. I played Halo 5. It's already out. I just went through a long-ass fucking install last night. I've only played the multiplayer, because, get real. Full disclosure, Gagan doesn't like Halo campaigns. If you're new to this podcast, I'm sorry for you.
If you're not new to this podcast and you don't know that, I don't know where you've been.
I was about to say, it was like, were you not
just
paying
went
attention?
full out Joson, not paying attention.
Yeah, seriously. So the BRs cycle on the map really quick, depending on the map. I felt like as soon as, like, once I know where the BRs are, I could just run to that spot real quick, and boom, there was a BR there already. I felt like whereas Halo 3, like, say the pit, there's that BR coming right up the stair thing from the main sniper tower, right?
Right.
It cycles, but it was like a lengthy cycle. It wasn't like every time you spawned it was there, right?
No, yeah. And like the ones on narrows at the end of at the other ends, yeah.
But
Ugh,
certain
narrows.
maps, I'm not fond of where the BRs are, and I feel like there's only one BR, and the pistol's good. Like, it is a damn good pistol that they've made in this game, and the assault rifle's finally useful in a meaningful way. Like, I've seen people take care of business with the assault rifle. It's actually useful up close in a way that the assault rifle never has been, right? Because I don't care how good you are up close. 4 headshots to the dome is taking you out up close. The BR wins. The DMR wins in that contest. But
Wish they would just pick one.
the problem is, I feel like when you try to pistol people with a BR or a DMR, they have such a range advantage. The pistol's good, but I don't think it's necessarily, like, it's still, because it's still giving away that weakness, it's almost like, why don't you just give up, let it go, and let's just do BR strikes? Like, I mean, maybe that's just because I'm making excuses, because I actually have not played well in Halo 5. This is actually uncharted territory for me. I'm negative in Halo right now. Not used to this.
Oh, come on. You've got to have played a couple Halo games where initially you didn't do so well and then you picked up.
We're 20 matches in, I'm still in the negative.
Well, you know.
I mean, it's all Team Arena. So, I don't know how much of that is because of the competition level in Team Arena, right?
Right.
Because Team Arena could just literally be like, the issue there is they put all the super serious Halo players there. And I got used to having the more casual playlist, I guess Social Slayer equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's sort of what Halo became with Halo 4 and Reach, without, like, Arena was a thing, but, like, proper Team Slayer was, like, maybe it was, you'd get, like, really good matches, but a lot of times me and Chris were winning in blowouts. Unless it was Countdown.
Fuck Countdown.
Yeah, fuck that map.
Man, that map was always so kind to me. I pity you guys.
The map is a good map, and it's like, I don't want to hate it, but we just kept losing on it. I don't know. It plays really well. Oh my god, 60 frames for this franchise is like
Where it needs to be.
where the fuck it needs to be at this point. In fact, I don't want to play multiplayer games at not 60 frames. Gears of War 4 better be 60 frames at multiplayer. Uncharted 4 is, from my understanding. They're
think
going
so, yeah.
900p with the resolution.
Yeah.
So, that's cool, I guess. I don't know why they don't just downscale to 720p, because Phil always says there's no real point to being 900p. I don't get it. That's just my take. Correct me if I'm wrong, internet. Other than that, I mean, so the thruster packs add a lot to the movement of the game. I know this is like super disjointed. It's a nifty little strafe move that you've never really had in Halo before. Mm-hmm. It makes turning corners fun. One guy actually did this super badass thing when he killed me. Was, like, usually you jump over people to get, but, like, he jumped and then did a quick, like, thrust mid-air. So, like, I'm used to, like, you played enough Halo to know exactly where he's about to jump. And he wasn't there this time. So, I'm like, wait, where the fuck did he go? And he's assassinating me in just, like, a second. And I'm like, that was actually super fucking cool, even though it happened to me.
Awesome.
So that was good. The clamber is mostly a non-issue to me, because I don't see, none of the maps seem like they're necessarily built for trick jumps, but they're really well done in a way that none of the Halo 4 Slayer maps were. So, they still do that symmetrical arena thing. That
There's a big circular object in the middle?
Yes, but now because there's more levels to every map, right? And layers, like, the maps feel like, alright, we'll keep it symmetrical, but make them highlight the new mechanics a bit. So it adds a lot to the maps. It gives the maps an identity that they never had before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they did the smart thing where they didn't straight up remake midship. They reimagined it to fit these new mechanics, right?
Yeah.
And that's, like, smart. Like, that's the thing you should do when you do maps. Like, if you're gonna bring back a classic, you need to recognize you added new mechanics. It changes everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Blackout.
Yeah, Blackout, Ivory Tower being in the reflection in a game that has armor lock, for instance. I mean, let's not even put that blame on just Bungie. They're not the only ones that make that mistake. Call of Duty's been bringing back Nuketown forever. Battlefield will find a way to bring in Wake Island and into Battlefield games that have new mechanics that weren't there in 1942, the game. And you're like, why? Why does this not feel the way it used to? And shit like that usually happens. The smart scope system, everyone was worried about, that it's ADS. Visually, some of them feel like ADS, others just feel like really exaggerated scopes. The Covenant weapon, what's that weapon called? The Storm Rifle?
Yeah.
It does this really cool thing where when you're scoping that game, the scope is like this, like, holographic thing that pops out of the side. So, like, there's really cool, like, visual tricks there that add a lot to the guns. Again, the assault weapons are actually nerfed from the beta, but, like, I still think they're effective in a way that they've never been in Halo games before, right?
Right.
Which I think makes sense, because I felt like maybe the assault weapons were too strong in the beta. Because it almost got to the point when people were saying, oh, the pistol's so good. I'm like, honestly, I don't use the pistol. Because the assault rifle was so good. I actually make more runs to the SMG. The SMG has been dialed back on the range, which is smart. Up close, it'll mow anyone down, though. Team Arena this is broken into 5 playlists right now. Team Arena, straight up. Team Slayer, SWAT, Breakout, and Free-For-All. I didn't play Free-For-All or SWAT. But in Team Arena, you play a little bit of everything. So, Chris, you should probably avoid this mode. You play Capture the Flag. And that was an interesting thing to do with the new mechanics. There's a mode called Stronghold, which is kind of like Hardpoint, where you own an area, but I think it's tied to how many kills while you own an area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that was fun, but I wouldn't play it over Slayer personally. But it's a nice little twist. Breakout is cool. It's like this. So it's 4v4, and everyone has 1 life and 1 grenade, right?
Okay.
And there's also a flag on the map. So it's done in rounds, and you have to win by 2 rounds. So it's got like some weird tennis rules going on, I think. And so, like, so yeah, it's made on the, there are these weird, I don't know how to describe the maps because I don't know the proper wording for the look. But have you guys seen what those maps look like? It's that, like, blue graph field thing.
No, I haven't seen it.
I'm playing it tonight, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess next podcast, Chris will give you the proper vocabulary for this. But, the maps come off very, like, kind of like they're being developed in a weird way, is the way I'd put it. Like, it feels very, like, computer generated.
Okay.
But because of the way they are, they're very much, like, they're meant to put you face to face with the enemy real quick, or, like, work around different ways, and kind of like what you would expect from a Gears of War map.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets really tense because, like, again, when you're playing Halo, and Halo, you die pretty quick from a distance if you fuck up fast enough. Especially if 2 people are shooting you at the same time. And, it gets really tense when you're like, you start hearing it's like, 3v2, 2v2, last man standing. And then it's like, just down to the 2 of you. Right? Like, those moments are pretty badass. You can steal the round, like, let's say you're down 1v3, but you grab the flag and bring it to the other side. Kind of like Griffball.
Right.
The flag's more like Griffball. You're not bringing it back to your base, you're bringing it to the other side. If you make that run, you actually win that round, even though your team died the most. So, that's actually a pretty cool-ass mode. Although I feel like the flag scoring is going to be really hard to do, which I think it should be, because it's a map stealing thing. Match stealing thing, right?
Right.
Like, it's essentially a comeback mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
That played well. Team Slayer is Team Slayer. It is what it is. Yeah, I mean, it plays nicely at 60 frames, but it is very much, they made Halo with a thruster pack and some clamber. It's faster. It's back to being an arena shooter. Let's see, was there any new weapon I messed with? Not really. Although the railgun's stronger than ever, it feels like. Well, the railgun was always strong, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, that was one of the few additions that I liked in Halo 4. That gun always felt good.
Yeah. Most part, I also played a lot of Warzone because that mode seems like if you want to just chill and play Halo and not get into super serious battles, that mode's really fun. It's really layered in a way that I wasn't expecting. So each map starts. Oh, by the way, Titanfall's little space Google image, right, has competition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we made fun of Titanfall for like when you evacuate a map, you end up in space, and the background image of outer space is totally a fucking JPEG from Google. The level called Escape from Ark or whatever has the ugliest waterfall I have ever seen in my life in a video game. It is so obviously compromised because they needed to run this game at 60 frames.
I'm so excited.
And it's so fucking awesome, in my opinion, that it looks so bad.
I want to see it.
So awesome. I want to I might get a picture of it just to put it with this podcast when it's online. Just so they know. Just so you know how bad this looks. Fuck, you could YouTube it by now. Probably, sure. People are mostly unimpressed with Halo's visuals, and because it doesn't look that. It looks smooth when it's playing, and it's got a. I don't want to say it's got a good art direction, but it's just colorful.
Not gray.
Yeah, it is colorful, but I've never been fond of 343's art in comparison to Bungie's with Halo.
Bungie has a really good art team.
Yeah. Well, I think,
the thing with Halo 4, and from what I saw from the beta and trailers for Halo 5, is that the contrast just seems a little too high. When the brightness goes a little too high on your TV and everything kind of has that shine to it.
Yeah, everything's too shiny. The colors are too thick, right? Halo 3 in its ugliness at least worked at times because, again, the color palette was soft in comparison. And it helped. Don't get me wrong, there's I'll take a Halo 5 visually over Gray Shooter 70 or fucking we went to Who Gives a Fuckistan again in modern whatever.
It's my favorite map.
Yeah, Who Gives a Fuckistan. So the matches in Warzone, the one I didn't play Warzone Assault, but they start off initially you get dropped off kind of like Silent Cartographer off God, I'm forgetting Halo vehicles at this point. The Pelicans.
Yep.
You get dropped off a Pelican. You're instantly bum rushed by Promethean dog things. You shoot them. You shoot the way. You kill a boss character, right? Usually in my case, it's been an elite that you go kill.
Yeah, there's bosses.
Each team gets 25 points right there. And then after that, you're playing on the main part of the map. And the main part of the map is a mixture of this. There's the part where you play Conquest, where there's 3 different bases you can control. And if you control all 3 bases, you open up the other team's home base, the force field around it. And then it becomes MOBA-ish, where you need to get to that core and blow it up.
Okay, yeah.
But if you do that, you instantly win. So that's the risk-reward system, I think. Because you can't ignore it. You still are going to end up killing a lot of people, but you don't get a lot of points for killing other players. I think that's how they balance people to actually play an objective mode was you can kill people, but you can get 30 kills. I had the most kills on my team by 8 kills one match. 28 kills, I think.
Yeah.
And I was, on our 12-man team, 10th in points. So... basically, I wasn't actually helpful. I mean, I guess it helped, but, I wasn't technically, anywhere near carrying the team in that contest. Right.
Well, clearing out people maybe made it easier for them to get the objective.
But, the real breadwinners of the points are capturing areas and then killing those bosses that the game shows up. Which, by the way, they named them, the Knight of Sidonia. That's not the actual name. But, the whole time you're just wondering, I'm like, am I supposed to know these fucking names? And I'm kind of wondering if that's what the story is like, where it just says names for things, and I'm like, do I care?
I'm sure some Halo fanatic knows this shit.
Right?
I've read the reviews, and that seems to be the consensus.
General consensus, yeah.
They're throwing words at us again.
Yeah. Which, on some level, I don't mind, because I feel like if you are well invested in the Halo universe, like, it's your wet dream.
Right.
And people always do explanation dialogue terrible, and my example of this has always been that very first episode of Supernatural. There's a scene where the older brother is picking up the younger brother from the college or whatever, and like the whole time the younger brother is explaining their childhood, and you're thinking, who the fuck is he explaining this to? He obviously knows this.
That's something I always appreciate about The Witcher. Like, people can mention things, and there's a dialogue option if you don't know that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know that stuff, you just don't ask them about it.
Well, like, there's a
You
bunny
can't
hop,
really
the bunny
do
hop
that
review of that
linear.
game was that game doesn't explicitly tell you a book event, and then you get to it, and you're like, oh, fuck!
Yeah.
Yeah, so... But, I mean, in the case of The Witcher, they do a better job of not getting so pronoun-happy with, like, basic plot points. Like,
The darkness, the guardians.
Yeah. Like, the backstory is the backstory. Whereas Halo's...
B, and capital T.
Yeah.
I mean, it's apples to oranges, because even if you don't get that stuff in The Witcher, you can still look at codex. Yeah. Whereas linear shooter game's not going to have that kind of...
Well, they added intel items, and I think that might help in some cases, but it's... So, here's my beef. I think people mistake the issues with Bungie's story and 343's story. Yes, children, I am going to say something in the vicinity of a positive thing about Bungie. I don't know. It might be. Who knows? Bungie's stories, while bad, and while it was true... You did need to read the extended universe to really get why the Halo universe was actually interesting, because the games did a shitty job of doing that. Their larger issue was that the fucking plots they told were either at one point non-existent, didn't fucking matter, or so fucking shit that, like, who cares what book you came up with? The plot they told is terrible. 343... on top of the fact that the plot is terrible,
focuses
is trying to bring the extended universe in, but not in a way to enhance the universe, but more to, like, they make it part of the plot, but it's too much of the extended universe, because if you don't, like I said, if you don't explain it, then half the time I'm like, okay, I don't, like people like me who don't want to read the books, it's like, you technically owe me some explanation for this. I don't want to Google who the fuck half these people are, or what these words mean, or how everyone knows what the didact is, and I'm seeing them for the first motherfucking time.
343 should have had Grimoire cards and go fucking online and read that.
That was terrible. I mean, it was terrible when Bungie did it too, so let's not, doesn't help. Again. So that's how I feel about the bosses, like, having names. Like, I don't think it adds... I mean, maybe it adds something, because they have a certain look to them. And certain ones are worth more points. Like, there's ones that are worth 150 points, and when the game's up to 1,000 points. So, like, when you're both at 900, that boss wins that game.
Yeah.
So then it's like this mad dash of vehicles and all the Spartans running to the shit. It's actually fucking sick.
That does sound cool.
So that's fun. The way the progression in that map works is for every kill you build, like, sort of like this meter of rec points. And there's, like, a card system going on with the game, right? And,
like Titanfall?
So, yeah, they're like burn cards, like Titanfall. And some of them unlock... So there's a loadout system specifically for Warzone, so you sort of have to, like, get the DMR card to eventually start loading out with the DMR. But everyone initially starts that map with assault rifle pistol. You have to unlock the loadout for the battle rifle through the progression of the match. And then power weapons, you pick them up, again, as burn cards, essentially. Like, once you've made it to level 5, yes, now you can start taking the shotgun. However, because you picked the shotgun, you're now back to level 1. So if you die with that shotgun, you're back to the initial loadout, and you gotta work that meter all over again.
Interesting.
So, and of course, naturally, the heavy vehicles are when you need to be at level 8, level 9, or whatever. So there's that weird check and balance of like, do you want the big heavy gun, or do you want a Scorpion? And the game, because of all the new movement abilities you have, taking down Scorpions has never been this easy. They're pretty much, you just run up on them half the time, because they can't hit you fast enough after they shot. Right. And you just blow them up. Same thing with the Mantis, although the Mantis is still really powerful. Banshees. How
are my ghosts?
Ghosts they're the same way they've always been, in the sense that they're so fast, they're good for escapes real quick, and you still need to, like, I guess people make the mistake with the ghosts where they just hold right trigger and they think that's gonna hit everything. It's like, no, you're supposed to steady the shot a bit and aim. And so you still need to do that. So the ghost I feel like has been unfuck-upable in Halo.
Oh, it was ruined in Halo Reach.
You felt it was ruined in Halo Reach?
The armor
lock ruined everything. Yeah, that's right. Well, without armor lock, it would have been fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it probably would have been fine.
Yeah.
But...
Whereas, like, you know, like the larger vehicle fuck up in Halo Reach, in my opinion, was that the Scorpion was the most overpowered fucking thing on God's green earth. All of a sudden.
Oh, it was pretty overpowered in Halo 2.
And Halo 3, but like, I felt like it was next level in Halo Reach.
Like, you got into a Scorpion in Reach, like, in Halo 1 or 2 and 3, it was just kind of like, alright, I'm gonna go kill some guys. In Reach, it's like, I have become a god.
Yeah, we kept joking, if you can't get a killing frenzy in that Scorpion, you suck. Whereas, like, Halo 3, you still had to work for that killing frenzy, even with the Scorpion, you know? Whatever. So it's been interesting. Sometimes I feel like the maps can be a little long if they don't feel close, right? Because, like, once you're winning by a blow, it's just like, oh, fuck, you're going through the motions a little bit.
Right.
Because they're not really pressing for bosses. The bosses become spongier because, of course, they do. Oh, and speaking of which, if you're used to the Titanfall bots not killing you, don't fucking mess with the Halo bots in some ways. Some of them knock you out really quick. If they melee you, you're dead.
Nice.
So that was interesting for me. Yeah, that was Halo 5. Multiplayer is good. It didn't launch with Forge. That's coming in December. It didn't launch with Big Team Battle. That is a playlist they're adding in a few weeks. It effectively really only has two types of playlists. It has the Warzone playlist and then the Arena stuff, which is the 4v4 stuff.
I'm sure I can handle just having those two for 2 weeks.
I mean, yeah. It's just, I wanted to know in advance I was getting an early access game.
I mean, I feel like they try to hide it.
I feel like at this point you should know that all games are early access.
Yeah, all games are early access. Some games just have the decency to make it like, you're buying an early access title. Are you sure?
It's disgusting. I don't know.
2015.
So here's my question. I saw certain reviews knock the fact that it launched with some of these limitations, and the whole time I'm thinking, like, but the thing is, that thing is going to be there since they've already shown it. It's clearly free.
They're reviewing the product that they have at the time.
Correct. But modes, you know they're going to be there. Like, you don't need to review Big Team Battle at this point if you played Halo. We know how Big Team Battle works.
I feel that unless the reviewers were actually stating, I'm taking off marks because this thing isn't there.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. They don't actually say I'm taking off marks. I'm just saying, like, how did you feel about that being a necessary statement being said in those reviews? You know what I mean? Did you feel it was, like, valid, or?
I think I would say it's valid just because it's their, like, for me, I wouldn't personally factor it into a score or anything like that. And I probably wouldn't even mention in the review. Mm-hmm. But if I would totally see the merit in someone mentioning, hey, this stuff isn't there and it feels kind of bare bones at launch. It's like, okay, that's your opinion. It's not that they're lying or anything.
Yeah, it's true. No. William?
I mean, they're not lying, but I don't know. You've got to review what you have. And as someone who's been there and been like, oh, our servers aren't working yet, just hold on. It's like, nope, I'm sorry, I have a job to do, and I have like 3 other games I have to review within the next 2 weeks. So, sorry. If the nicest thing I'll say is like, this is coming out later, and just not say anything else, but at some point it's just like, you're responsible for what you release. Release.
And in my opinion, it's simple. It's like I said, I called it an early access game, so you know exactly where I stand on this. You should mention it, because... Okay. I understand that certain things did not make it because the game was told to be out at a certain time, and they prioritized. In that case, yeah, sure, they made all the right priorities this time. The game works, the dedicated servers are there, game at 60 frames, locked. I mean, locked. So that is pretty impressive on so many levels. However... I am used to Halo 3 and Halo Reach being these feature-ridden multiplayer games from day motherfucking one.
Right.
I made a tirade this year on Splatoon based on the idea I was like, even if Nintendo is doing this on purpose because people get burnt out on multiplayer games super quick, whereas like when they kept adding in a map or something, it felt like a new thing was happening. But really, you were getting content you should have already gotten. And even if that works on a psychological level, I come from a generation when our multiplayer games just fucking had everything, and the games that stood the test of time were just because they were that fucking good.
Like I said, I think it's like a strategy for how quickly people move on from games. It's kind of a shitty tactic, but I think it probably would work in the sense that people just move on so fast.
No, dude, it works. Splatoon is an example of it works. People responded to that with nothing but positives. I'm like, they Jedi mind tricked you. How do you not see this?
Yeah, it's like, because if you release everything all at once, people will almost even get, I don't want, because this makes it sound like I'm defending them, but they almost will just, like, they kind of take it for granted and be overwhelmed and just be like, oh, there's all this stuff, but I just want to play Warzone. And, like, ignore the fact that there's an arena, ignore the fact there's a big team battle. Whereas if you stagger that, it becomes like an announcement every 2 weeks. Look what we're adding.
Yeah.
And then it creates buzz around a game that could have been overlooked.
Game what added things and did it cool ways and didn't feel like the main game was coming with less.
Witcher 3?
Witcher 3?
Yeah, it did.
Listen, in this year, as much as I might come up out of this year and not think The Witcher 3 is the best game this year, which, whatever, it's fine. Different taste and all. But, of the things I will absolutely give The Witcher 3 credit for is that no game this year treated its fan base with the same level of respect as The Witcher 3. It's not even debatable at this point. Like, what other game comes close in that regard?
There isn't.
There's, like, Bloodborne was just another Souls game. Like, it was a meaty game, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like, I'm not trying to take anything away from it, but, like, Witcher 3 was as, it felt like a service on top of the fact that they already made me a game. Like,
right.
They had DLC plans to give you, like, a neat little treat every week, right? That weren't necessarily major key factors of the game. They were literally add-ons that they probably couldn't finish in the dev cycle, but were like, these are little ideas we could throw in before we move on to an expansion that you'll earn. And we'll keep adding new things to this world. And I bet you the way the game feel was in that game was entirely intentional, except for the fact that he gets stuck on environment props and shit, right?
Right.
Like, I bet that was like, okay, we didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
But they wanted him to feel like a human being when waiting. Yeah. And then when people were like, oh god, this feels awful though, they were like, alright, I guess we gotta fix it. And then they patched that shit.
Right.
You know that was, yeah. Like, Rockstar has never patched their stupid Tap A to run. And I'm not the only one.
They've made new games and still haven't done that.
Yeah, they made new games. And
yeah, because I think it was 10 weeks of free DLC, and the two, because like it was just like sometimes a little mission here or there. Yeah. They added. I think this was later though, but people complained about the lack of a bottomless chest, like a separate inventory system. They added one in. But yeah, the two biggest ones that I almost wonder if they had planned, or if it was the response from the community, was the movement new movement set, and the last one was the New Game Plus mode. I'm not sure if they had that plan. That was the biggest request on the forums that I was seeing, and then that was their last big
Pretty sure they always had it planned. It was just one of those things. Like, I think they outright said, like, that one, it was a struggle to get it within the dev time. Like, it's gotten, because again, these games have gotten expensive and they're on they're on really expensive budgets.
Right.
You know, they're sort of prioritizing because they need to release in this window because publishing deals and because it's probably the best opening for them. I feel like if that game falls into June, it sort of runs the risk of not selling them as much. It's weird, but, like, facts are facts. I've never seen a game do well in June, July, and August. That isn't Madden.
Right. Yeah, so just so cool to see a dev. I think that's the right way of doing it. Is these are not, whereas, the Halo thing, it's like, you should probably have big team battle at launch. There's nothing even that says any game should have a New Game Plus.
Yeah. I mean, RPG should.
Not even all RPGs have New Game Plus.
Yeah, that's true. But no, like I said, going back on that studio, as far as providing a product and service, I don't think can be hated. Like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to be some kind of monster.
Yeah.
And then The Witcher would kill you.
Yeah.
So.
That's true. That's what he's. And then when they release an expansion pack that's costs $10, it doesn't feel like a ripoff.
Yeah, so Witcher 3 is your game of the year. Like, let's not
even sugarcoat it. An expansion pack that costs $10 is like a legitimate expansion is like Jesus.
Yeah, usually we get DLC that's $10 and it's not that meaty.
It's like 3 new maps.
For the record, Arkham Knight has this like $25 season pass, and like whatever. Some of it is the race car tracks, which I think that's a problem with the season pass, is that you're paying for things you probably don't want on top of there being things in it that you might want to play. Right? So you get race car tracks and these story beats that, from my understanding, go 30 to 40 minutes. Which
I heard the Batgirl one was literally, you could beat it in 40 minutes.
And it's like, what?
Yeah, what?
Yeah. Whereas The Witcher 3 is 10 hours of basically everything everyone likes about The Witcher. The quests. It adds to the world. And I think they still added Gwent shit.
They did, just for me.
But the Gwent shit is, again, the optional part. You still get a 10-hour meaty game.
Yeah, well, that's what's crazy about the expansion pack, is that it has side quests. It's not just like, because oftentimes, or for a while at least, when there was an expansion pack or a piece of DLC comes out, it's like you have to do this stuff, and that's the whole DLC.
Yeah.
Whereas Witcher 3, on top of having this main quest, there's side quests. There's they added runes to the game, which are runes and glyphs, which are like additional ways to modify your equipment. They added more Gwent stuff. So there's possibility that you can go through the DLC and not complete parts of the DLC because it's so big.
No, it's pretty cool, and it's like, it's not that I don't mind that weird episodic DLC, because like Mass Effect 2 had really good ones. Overlord and... Was it Mass Effect 2? Yeah, that was Mass Effect 2. Overlord and Slayer the Shadow Broker. Mass Effect 1 had Bringing Down the Sky, was one I liked. Right? Bringing Down the Sky is when you fight the weird alien with the...
On the asteroid.
Yeah.
Mass Effect 3 had Citadel.
Citadel is very good. I haven't played it, but it's...
The Last of Us had Left Behind, and that one's like a really good DLC apparently for that game, and my thing is, those are good, but sometimes I feel like, and it's not that I don't want them to go away, because I feel like when they're done right, like, at a reasonable price, those DLCs are like a cool addition. Like, I want another episode of this series, right?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want another movie, and that's cool, but at the same time, when you get something like this, like a meaty expansion, for $10 fucking bucks, no less, you're like, wow, why isn't everyone else doing this?
I know.
Yeah.
Because CD Projekt Red has integrity.
Yeah. I mean, to Rockstars, I don't know how much The Lost and the Damned and Ballad of Gay Tony cost at launch. They weren't $10, but they also weren't like...
I think they were 15 or 20.
15 and then...
20, yeah.
Yeah, 15 to 20, and Undead Nightmare was the same way, right?
Yeah.
Those were lengthy.
Those were still lengthy, yeah.
I don't think they were 10 hours, but like, Actually, I might Google this real quick. But
I think that had a decent amount of new side activities that you could partake in too.
So how are you feeling about it overall, though? Besides the fact that erect penis out its end.
Yeah, obviously, but no, it a lot of people have made this parallel, and it definitely has a lot in common with the Bloody Baron side quest in the game, in that it has kind of a core to it that branches off in a bunch of different directions, and you're introduced to all these characters that can be very important or not very important depending on how you play things. And what I always just really appreciate about the Witcher quests that is apparent here, for example, there's one part in the DLC in which you have to perform a heist, and if it had been a different game, the heist would have already been set up for you, and you just had to complete the heist.
Right.
In The Witcher 3, it's like, hey, no, we need to scout this place out. You need to assemble a crew. We need to pick a plan to get in there. Like, it's like homework, quote unquote, but it makes the payoff of the actual mission matter.
It's a thing the better missions in GTA 5 did.
Yeah, exactly. Except The Witcher, in its best missions, and this is one of them,
Does it better.
Yeah, it does it all the time. Like, in all of the Witcher's quests, it's like, okay, you don't just go out and kill this monster. It's like, find out the best way to kill him. Interview people around the town to figure out, like, what it's done to them, kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's the thing the series has always been good at. Like, the things that people... Like, the first Witcher has its shortcomings as a game. Don't get me wrong. But... That meditating before the fight, the pre-planning with the potions and the signs, like, that was, people acted like, oh, you gotta do all this bitch work, and I'm like, that adds to the fucking fiction, though.
Yeah.
Like, of all the times I am ever gonna defend work in a video game, it was like, no, the game is trying to keep you immersed, and it's committed to it. And it's conveying it through gameplay, no less. How are you not seeing how this... Like, how are you not seeing how cool this is? Like, I think it's rad when they do it, personally.
I think it's awesome when they do something like, when they build something that's so related to the story and the mechanics and make it worthwhile for you to, like, and make you pay for when you mess up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing, is I've already fucked up big time at one part, and it caused some deaths, and I was like, whoopsie daisies. And it's just, I think it's just so interesting that even in a DLC, when I revisit this game next year, when the big expansion pack comes out, I feel like I'll be revisiting an entirely new game, not just because of all the mechanics they've added, but because the game is so expansive that even if I wanted to do the same things again, I don't think I could. I'm going to get a different story.
My thing with The Witcher 3 is I'll never be able to uninstall it because they keep adding things to it, so I'm like, alright, might as well just come back to this later. Because, like, again, without spoiling, I can still play... Effectively, like, when the game story ends, I can still play the game as Geralt. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. Yeah, that is very cool. But
the annoying thing about The Witcher is I don't want you to spoil any of these quests, because, like, the series does... keep saying this, like, describing some of the gameplay can very much sound like they made a checklist open world game. But, like, it's the story beats that they add that give it so much character. It's the reason you tolerate some of its bullshit.
Yeah. Well, and the thing I also like about Witcher storylines and Witcher quests is, like, okay, you're like, okay, I've done things like this before. I know how this is going to handle. Like, for example, not really spoiling much, but this one part you have to attend an auction to fulfill someone's request. And you're like, okay, I'll just, like, outbid some people. But then it turns out, like, bidding people gets you a name there, and then you get kicked out of the auction, and then it's like, what? Like, it responds to you in ways you're not expecting.
Yeah. That world's rules become important. You're sort of playing the game within the game now, because the fiction becomes that much more important.
Right.
Because...
Exactly. You're, like, thinking, if I play as I would do this in real life, things will go my way. It's like, no, not in the Witcher universe, it wouldn't.
It's like, you need to now pay attention to the Witcher's universe. It's kind of like you're now playing the Game of Thrones in a weird way.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, for sure.
It brings me back to a lot of what, like, really made those like, that's what you want from Western RPGs, though. Like, the thing that makes Planescape special. And I hate when people say the gameplay is bad in Planescape, because, like, yes, the combat is poor, but but interacting with that game is actually really good, because if you look at the fucking definition of gameplay, part of it is the story the gameplay actually tells. Just throwing that out there. And the initial area you could go in and fight those zombie motherfuckers, but if you're paying attention to the world, you're noticing they're not hostile. You're the fish out of water, right? What happens when you go talk to them, and if you're paying attention to, like, what one of them is doing, and you answer the questions correct, like, the game's real difficulty might come, like, there are conversations you can technically, quote-unquote, fail because you make the wrong decision there, and that adds so much depth to that gameplay experience. It adds so much to, like, that story suddenly has a tangible connection with the player, right? And that's what the Witcher games do when they're at their best moments. Like, at the same time, you're still, like, Geralt of Rivia is still his own special brand of idiot by himself. And I don't mean that in a nice way, because Geralt is pretty stupid in this story, in this universe. At least in Witcher 1 and 2, he was, like, fucking pants on head retarded.
I feel like he's a bit more weather-worn in Witcher 3.
Yeah, he's a bit more seasoned now.
Yeah, I feel like he doesn't make as dumb mistakes. Because, absolutely. Whereas in Mass Effect, you were always playing your character for the most part. Shepard
you tweak Shepard a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but whereas Geralt is his own character. Sure, you make grand decisions for him, but he's going to do a lot of things as a Witcher would do.
Yeah.
So I always appreciated that, as I felt like, because a lot of people I remember from Mass Effect 3 complained where Shepard was talking more out of your control.
Yeah.
Whereas I never felt weird about it when Geralt was doing it, because I felt like he was a character.
Yeah. Well, it's a delicate balancing act when you think about it, because they keep you engaged and keep you involved, but still don't compromise Geralt as, like, a character himself.
Mm-hmm. But I think they also do play on him being pants on head retarded a few times. A lot of characters will make fun of him, especially when he's having interactions with Yennefer, because she just tells him to do everything, and they'll make fun of him for it to his face. So I feel like this is, especially in Witcher 3, the myth of Geralt is kind of grounded a little.
They've gone Kojima with it. The myth is bigger than the man.
No. I think they just ground him, and he's just a person in this story now.
I think, or at the least, they're at least going. They're pretty meta with the story. It's actually pretty funny when they do it. They're like, it's almost like, listen, guys, we fucked up. We know. Like, that was a really stupid story. It's like, yeah, it was actually really dumb.
I think another thing that I really like about the DLC is I feel like they saved some of the most interesting, not just characters, there's some really standout characters that would count as some of the best characters of the year, let alone the best characters in the Witcher universe. But they also, like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like in DLC, the events that you're doing were the B-side tracks, the things that weren't good enough for the main game, so they just delegated to DLC, where some of this stuff is like, damn, people are going to miss out on some of the best moments because they're not going to get this DLC. Which, if you have got the game, get the DLC. This is kind of like, again, it's not crucial to the story. This is very self-contained. But a lot of The Witcher is self-contained.
Are you excited that in a few weeks we're basically going to become a Witcher podcast? Because, like, effectively I'm writing the review now for our website. Because in your infinite wisdom, when I'm giving you license to basically say erect penis out of 10, you're like, no. Let Gagan and his jaded ass review the game I like.
Well, yeah, because then I wouldn't have been able to talk about it like 7 months later.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because now it'll be fresh in your mind going into Game of the Year podcast.
And see, the other thing is, Chris doesn't want to put his opinions, like, on paper so that you can refer to them before the Game of the Year podcast.
Ooh.
But he wants your ammo.
Oh, no, he's probably going to look forward to the Metal Gear Solid 5 review. Well, Gagan, I know you wrote these flattering words, but let's skip down a few paragraphs real quick. What's this about the game not having difficulty settings, and it used to have these things?
Yeah.
The Witcher 3 used to have difficulty settings, and look at that, it still has them!
Well, yeah, that's just the thing.
Fuck!
Yeah.
You did it again!
Yeah, giving me ammo.
No,
But-
not
oh.
that. No, not
No,
that. I meant.
talked
You
about
mentioned
the game that
he
shall
who
not be
must not be
named.
named, yeah. But no, that's just the thing. I tend to be a lot more critical in reviews.
Yeah.
Like I will point out, whereas now if I didn't fucking write a review, I don't have to be critical of Witcher 3 at all.
Yeah. No, that's true. Sure.
Yeah, writing
Don't
reviews.
worry, I'll do the hard work. Yeah, I'll do the hard work for both of us. But no, it's that game world though. Oh my god.
I know.
I mean, I stand by it. Obsidian can give them a run for their money as far as just their commitment to making the world feel look the way it should in terms of making it believable in the sense of like the way it's constructed. Like, like if you go into an area and you ask the question, there's a great Beaton video on this. So you ask the question, what do these people eat? You explore that place enough, you will find out what they eat.
Absolutely.
Which you cannot do in a Bethesda open world. I challenge you to do that with Fallout 3. Alright, they put a town next to a nuke instead of a water source.
Hey, I mean, you know, even if you could find out what they ate in Fallout 3, like, if you had to, like, physically look at it in the game, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. It's like, that looks like a brown turd.
I mean, New Vegas uses
Everything in this game.
But New Vegas uses the same engine. They still were able to do it. And it's not like their art team is better than the Bethesda's. In that conscious, I think Bethesda's usually got a better art team. That's been their biggest benefit in a lot of ways, is that their art team bails out their shitty engines.
Yeah, but Obsidian's a smarter development team.
No, but they make better RPGs.
They do.
Funny enough, there was a thread on GameSpot or whatever, and then Mooksy there was a guy asked, was like, I've heard Fallout 3 is better than New Vegas, and he's like, yeah, if you don't like deeper RPG mechanics, choices that actually matter, structure that adds a lot to the gameplay, and a story that makes fucking sense, then yes, Fallout 3 is absolutely better than New Vegas. It was so bend-ascending, and I just adored it so much.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like you have to be bendiscending to Fallout 3 fans. They're just bad people.
Anyway, I was bringing up this point. Obsidian can go toe with them in terms of, like, crafting a world that feels right. The thing that they don't compete in, and that's by virtue of the fact that the CD Projekt's programmers, in terms of just making really beautiful game worlds, I mean, they're the total package in that regard.
Absolutely.
Like, on top of being technically impressive, they create worlds that are, at the least, devoid of me shitting on them. I'm sure Towers will find a rock that doesn't work the way he would like, because he always finds that one aesthetic thing that's like,
yo,
that
go
was
to this
hot.
one town.
Yeah. No, but even in his review, I remember reading, I was like, he was pretty high on that aspect of the game as well, because it's like, no, they're pretty fucking legit in that regard. I would say Rockstar, I guess, is the other one. But I feel like with Rockstar, I don't want to take it away from Rockstar, but the thing with Rockstar is I describe it as in their case, they just threw money at the game. If you like. Sometimes it's not even necessarily that they were that talented.
If you have enough money, you're bound to be talented.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about DICE's audio, and it's impressive audio. It's just, after a while, I felt like, don't they have EA's money to throw at this after a certain point? And like,
I think,
yeah.
I think what I also appreciate is they get the big broad strokes, like the world down, but
it's the little details.
The little details, yeah, for sure. Like the thing that always impresses me, we talk about Bethesda, we talk about Rockstar. The thing that always really takes me out of it is like, yes, these huge worlds look great, and then it shows a cutscene of a character, and they look like this plastic piece of garbage because they didn't put the same money into the character models into the world. Whereas Witcher, even that is like pretty tough to knock.
Yeah, well, Witcher 3 at least. Like they always
The
look
Witcher 3,
weird,
right.
but like, I say this because again, I was name dropping people today, but I was talking with Aaron, and he was like, coming from Dragon Age 3 to Witcher 3, it's like the gulf in quality
Seriously.
is staggering, and I'm like. And again, it was one of those moments where it kind of felt like I was taking it for granted. I was like, my thing is, like, I kind of always saw this coming because The Witcher 1 punched so far above its weight class. Like, it didn't look good in the character models, but the way they built that world, believable. They added so much little detail to that game. Like, that game wasn't polished, but good God, did it compete fine with Mass Effect and Dragon Age Origins. It was a way more interesting universe than Dragon Age Origins, by virtue of the fact that I guess like the Witcher books work on Polish mythos. It's not all Polish though, isn't it? Mostly Norse.
Norse, yeah.
Yeah, mostly Norse. It's Polish in origin.
Yeah. But like all that stuff adds so much to the game. So like you were like. For people that are like, oh, you can't just downplay AAA games. Like, this is why you need a middle tier. What you forget was that at one point, Bungie and BioWare were middle tier devs who eventually became the AAA of today. CD Projekt Red is the little engine that could, and now we're seeing them could. Right? And I'm asking that question, like, when we're bad-mouthing this new generation of games, I'm looking at these developers and I'm going, who the fuck is our CD Projekt Red?
Other than that.
I feel like the issue is now that, like, in a lot of ways, if you were coming up to be, like, a big studio, you had to earn it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, BioWare made fairly, not, like, huge budget games.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, because there was a middle market for games. Like
here, this is what we're good at, and then people thought that was good, and so they got more money, so they made something else. Mm-hmm. People thought that was good too, and it's this, and like Bungie, they didn't have like the resources initially, but they made stuff that was like, this is good.
They made their money on the Mac, yeah.
And then people wanted to give them money to work on bigger things. So by the time they got to work on the bigger things, it was like, this team kind of knows what they're doing.
They had their breakout success with Halo, and then after that, Halo became like realistically. I would look at Halo Combat Evolved and really think about, I was like, is that game really a AAA game of that era? When you think about it, because technologically speaking, it's actually not. Metal Gear Solid 2 is the AAA game of that era when you think about it, because Metal Gear Solid 2 to this day is technically more impressive than so many of those games from that year. Maybe Grand Theft Auto 3 is the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like, Halo 2 effectively, well, I mean, whatever, the campaign was made worse, but, like, the multiplayer you knew had so much money thrown at it.
Yeah.
So.
But I think that, like, that middle tierness helped, and especially the fact that those studios had to work to get there.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't have it given to them. They didn't have, like, a lead designer that came up and, like, I was so great, give me a studio. You know what I mean?
I typed on this podcast, but someone needs to stop typing. Or stop hitting the space bar.
I'm not typing. At all.
What is this noise? I keep hearing it again. Whatever. No, I agree with what you're saying. It's just,
And, like, I feel like we're getting to the era where a lot of the big studios just are formed by people who have, like, come off of this big team, or, like, they had an idea, and so they're, or, like, they're, like, an amalgamation of a bunch of different developers that have not worked together before, and people just give them money. And then they make stuff that isn't that exciting, because they didn't have to work for it. It just was given to them.
True. But I don't think this era is necessarily about. I don't think there's a space for a smaller studio to come up with that.
I think. Oh yeah, no. I think we're getting, because I think people are getting.
Like, I mean, I guess PC is the only place where it's at. Which whatever. CD Projekt Red is a PC developer, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. Let's avoid that combo because we'll get back to it again, I'm sure. Heart of Stone. Go play it if you've played The Witcher 3 because it's pretty rad apparently. And that Baron quest is supposed to be that quest of the year.
That is quest of the year.
That's gotta be mission of the year at least, right? Like that we would have that level.
Oh, absolutely. I can't see anything topping that.
Yeah. So thinking of like I like a lot of the missions in Metal Gear Solid 5. OKB would definitely be the big one for me. Ooh, or that one with
Gagan, you're doing it again.
Wait, it's too late. We already talked about it. Yeah. Yeah, I figured license. What is that clicking noise?
Not me.
I have no idea.
Anyway, no, yeah, that's Hearthstone. Sorry, Heart of Stone. That's got to be intentional.
You really want to play cards, don't you?
No. I mean, that's got to be intentional on their part. Because, like, Gwent is clearly Hearthstone. Like, it's not even...
It's not the same at all.
It's totally the same. Have you played Hearthstone?
Yeah, I've played it.
That's pretty
I mean, Hearthstone is essentially just Magic.
Magic for dummies, but yes.
Yeah, Magic where, like, you don't get this ridiculous mana thing and it's super good.
Yeah.
As someone who had friends who were annoyingly obsessed with Magic.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. It's Magic for people like me who don't want to get into Magic.
Yeah, and that's great.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a good game. Before we get to Williams games, let's. There was a PlayStation Paris event today. Oh, by the way, Grand Theft Auto 4: Lost and Damned, I didn't bother checking the other one, was 7 hours. So
Tony is bigger.
Yeah. Completionist for Lost and Damned is 18 hours.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of side stuff.
Yeah. So Heart of Stone is probably the completionist part of Heart of Stone would probably be pretty long. Actually, I guess I could check that out real quick. Let's. What do you think, Chris? Give me a guess.
I think completionists or just normal.
Completionist. Normal, you already said. Like we're guessing it's
10 hours. Yeah. Completionist, I'd say like 18 and a half. Yeah, sounds.
I mean, Chris, do you even know how to do a game without being a completionist these days?
Like I said, I'm always somewhere in the middle. I can't go full all the way out, but I can get pretty close.
I mean, I'm a completionist, so I understand your pain.
Because completionist in Witcher 3 is ridiculous. Going to every single question mark on that map, can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that. I can do every side quest and every monster hunt, which I did. That was the best thing.
Completionist is 18 and a half hours. The main story is at 12 hours.
Oh. So yeah, there's not as much side stuff, but that's just...
I mean, that's still pretty lengthy for $10.
Yeah. Yeah, you get, if you're doing that $1 per hour, you get more than 1 hour per $1.
Yeah, it's pretty legit. It's pretty legit.
Best thing about it is when I loaded up Steam, it unlocked all the Steam achievements that glitched out when I beat the game last.
Huh.
Because they updated it right before I beat the game, and I got a bunch of achievements didn't unlock for me. And I was like, no! So it looked like my favorite game of the year. I didn't actually beat it.
Yeah. So Sony had a press event in Paris, game show, whatever. Let's get the negative one out of the way. Gran Turismo is
that's still a thing.
Yeah, it's still a thing. Gran Turismo is releasing Gran Turismo Sport. For the uneducated, is Gran Turismo 5 Prologue sequel. As in, they're making a beta for Gran Turismo 7 and selling it to you.
Well, Prologue sold well, I mean, you know.
And I understand that this is the same website of scumbags who gassed up Metal Gear Solid 5 after Ground Zeroes. But understand, this is the same website that gave that game a 6 out of 10. I guess that devalued that scale a little bit. But still, like, it's a fucking demo. Let's not sugarcoat it. It's a fucking demo. That's lame. Please
Just
stop.
like Ground Zeroes. What
It's a
up?
demo. Yeah, trust me, we cut it for exactly that reason. I didn't use the word demo when we were arguing it, because then Phil would get defensive about it, and then he would like bludgeon that thing into 10th place.
Gagan, would you say it was a playable teaser?
It was an appetizer, is the way I called it.
Oh, come on, did you not get that?
Yeah, I get it, but I want to, whatever. And actually, that was really the only negative thing. Otherwise, there was some cool stuff. They showed footage of Gravity Rush 2 for PlayStation 4. That game looks pretty fucking sick.
We're gonna get that series on a real system now.
Yeah, and I'm like, I didn't buy a Vita for these type of reasons. Uncharted 4, they showed the multiplayer. They teased like them doing the supernatural stuff, which like the guy from Naughty Dog said it like it was a bullet point for the series. I'm like, they're universally the worst part of your games. No one likes the golems. No one likes fighting the purple mutants. No one likes fighting the Ghost Riders. I don't think the purple mutants are as bad as people make them out to be, because you get that gold crossbow, it just levels them. But like, yeah, like they're not the most beloved part of your games.
Not at all. Remember how that game was fun up until that point, and then it became not fun?
Yeah, it was still there were fun sections after that.
There were fun sections.
Yeah, it was so fun. Where was I going with this? I was like, they added these weird, like I saw Elena drink something and she became the motherfucking Flash. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, that is things I don't want in my multiplayer game, because that's exactly why I didn't like Uncharted 3. It's like, Modern Warfare was the one people like. Modern Warfare 2 is when people said, fuck Call of Duty.
Well, yeah, because you could dual-wield shotguns, and that was just ridiculous.
And
Without
Akimbo!
And knife across the map, and come on.
It wasn't even endearing the way Wolfenstein's dual-wielding shotguns were.
I know. Oh my god, it's so dumb. It's great. 2 automatic shotguns, like they're fucking nothing. That's a game you need to play, Chris, because you need to see those dip shots.
Maybe.
You need to see that meathead shooter in its glory. Who knows? Maybe one day they'll work their way back to a game like The Darkness.
Darkness only had one game anyways.
I think you should play Darkness too. At least rent it. Well, you don't rent games, so it's Canada.
Yeah, what am I gonna rent from? Blockbuster?
Yeah, plus the chances are they're never gonna make a Darkness 3.
You mean a Darkness 2?
Darkness 3. Because they already made a Darkness 2 and it wasn't that bad of a game.
Allegedly.
If anything, I think the game mechanics is not even arguable. It was a better playing game than Darkness. Some of those kills in Darkness 2 are so fucking cool. And they don't ruin the Jenny thing, which is the only thing I care about in the grand scheme of things. Don't ruin that part about the Darkness, and you're fine making a sequel. Ruin that part of the game. Burn in hell. Am I wrong in saying that?
No,
If you ruin the best part of the endless backlog game, we will come after you with torches.
Yeah, we're gonna make the angriest Twitter post of all time.
What if Darkness
Max
3...
Z-Rax will feel our fury, Gagan.
What
if Darkness 3 was like him trying to resurrect Jenny somehow?
Okay, so the ending of Darkness 2... Oh, fuck it, I'm spoiling it. So at the ending of Darkness 2, he ends up in hell, and like some angel chick
I feel like he's done that a few
takes
times.
Jenny
The Angelus, yes.
from... Yeah, it's, Yeah, you know Darkness lore for God knows what reason.
I'm a comics guy.
Yeah, whatever. There's this light thing that fights the darkness, and it takes Jenny, and now Jackie's stuck in her spot in hell. But it's not really Jenny, it's just a form of Jenny, right?
Because she's still dead.
Because the whole time he's sort of like having this weird like asylum thing of, did he dream it all? Was Jenny just a nurse, and he's just a crazy person?
Like Alice?
Yeah,
Alice.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It was kind of cool. I wasn't fond of the fact that it went super comic booky. I'm like, alright, they still haven't ruined it yet. As long as she stays dead and Jackie's miserable.
The whole time you're just like, fingers crossed, she's gotta stay dead.
Don't ruin this!
Yeah.
Because when you go back to his house and you see that little altar he has, like this, like all these candles with a picture of Jenny, and like...
Is To Kill a Mockingbird still playing?
I don't know, it should be. It should be. But the whole time I'm just thinking, I'm like, oh, that's good. There's this weird moment where he goes to like this diner and he's having a flashback of like, when she worked at a diner or something. And it was cute! And I'm like, see? These guys aren't gonna ruin it. This is good. So, I like Darkness too. I want to see that character again. I like Jackie Estacado. He's a scumbag. But
he's a good scumbag.
He's our scumbag.
He's a scumbag you can believe in.
Yeah. What else happened at this thing? Uncharted 4 had a thing. Horizon looks good as usual. Stupid name.
I keep forgetting if it was like Horizon Zero Dawn or Zero Dawn Horizon or Zero Horizon Dawn.
Yeah.
Like those are just they're three totally interchangeable words. They don't relate to each other.
Yeah.
On Horizon Zero?
I feel like because Guerrilla was like, listen, we're doing too original of a thing. Let's generic this thing the fuck up with the name. Let's just throw words at the wall. That way people will be like, alright, it's still a Guerrilla game. Like, calm the fuck down.
It's a good thing their darts didn't hit like...
Oh my god, but the game looks really fucking sharp.
It does. Oh, and in other news, Sony officially announced that they're not supporting the Vita anymore. Like, everybody didn't really know that already. Like, they were like, people will be surprised. No.
Yeah, it's like, no one's surprised, Sony. In case you haven't noticed, you haven't been supporting the Vita for a while.
Remember how it got like 2 minutes of your time at E3? That was good.
So go watch the extended footage of the guy explaining the RPG and the systems of Horizon. Good game. And I stand by this. If you had told me, if you put that game next to Scalebound, and you told me one of them was platinum, well, I mean, I guess I would tell Scalebound is absolute platinum. But I would instantly think, of course, I'm more excited for the platinum game. But I might humor the idea that I'm more interested in a Gorilla game than a Hideki Kamiya game, and that's what modern gaming has come to. And that sounds like a bad thing, but actually, it might actually be a good thing when you think about it.
Well, because if Scalebound's good and Horizon's great, then we get 2 good games.
Yeah, and it's awesome.
And Platinum's going to make a good game, so...
Yeah. The thing is, both of those games have a similar problem in that, oh my fucking god, that frame rate is awful. And I am getting really spoiled with these 60 frames.
You better pray.
All I've been doing has been basically playing games on PC, and then Halo 5 is 60 frames, like a real 60 frames. And this year I played a lot of Splatoon, and Nintendo does real 60 frames because, hint, they might actually be as good as they're made out to be. Just to put that out there. So, 30 frames is already going to be a struggle for me. Less than 30, those 2 developers need to grow the fuck up. Like, it's time to join the big boy leagues, Platinum and Gorilla. Alright? Please
Didn't
stop.
Bayonetta run at 60 frames?
What?
Didn't Bayonetta 2 run at 60 frames?
Yeah.
It ran at console 60 frames. Which is, it runs at 60, and then it drops, and, like, if you're not super... Like, it's still better than 30, and I'm not of the opinion that 40 frames isn't a better playing game than 30 frames. That's stupid. But, because you notice the drops, it does annoy you at times, because there's, like, weird inconsistency as you're playing, right? Because you're gonna feel the frame rate dip as well, which is the annoying thing.
Yeah, because it starts to chug a little bit.
Yeah. But, like, oh my god, that's why I want Platinum games on a PC. Like, I need their games locked. Bayonetta deserves to be locked 60 frames.
More Revengeance on PC in your life?
Yes. I'm not even... Revengeance isn't even my favorite Platinum games. I mean... I might like it more than Vanquish. No, what I mean is, like... But, like, that's the only one I got. I was like, put Vanquish on, goddamn. Vanquish deserved to be at 60 frames to begin with. That game is 30. And it's not cool. That game is too fast to be played at 30. It should be at 60. That game would be badass. Anyway, Horizon looks cool. Go watch footage of that. Dreams is interesting because it's such an imaginative concept. So, like, I feel like you explore dream to dream, and apparently the game mechanic rules change from room to room.
Which is so cool.
And I think there's going to be a lot of user-generated content for this game. Like, people will make their own dreams, which I think is, again, like, that's a cool way to spin the Little Big Planet stuff. My worry is Little Big Planet didn't have good mechanics, and it had Sackboy, which made everything charming. This isn't charming. This is, like, a really bad fever dream sometimes. It's actually kind of creepy.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. But in that same context, I would need the mechanics to at least be enjoyable.
Right.
So, let's put this on lukewarm, because I'm happy about the fact that it's new and imaginative. I'm not sold on it, though, which is the problem. David Cage announced a new game. It's called Detroit. I forgot the subtitle. But it's basically... Become Human, yes. So it's basically that Android trailer they had from years ago. It was called Kara? Or Kara, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He had a tech demo showing her face, all this stuff. He's like super obsessed with facial tech for God knows what reason. And because he's all about, I need to show emotion, or whatever the fuck his accent is. Terrible David Cage accent, but whatever. That asshole had bad accents in his games. I'm not allowed to have bad accents on my podcast? Come on. It looks like a story about, can robots feel feelings? And, I bet she's gonna run into robot racism. And then, that's gonna be an allegory on the human condition. And it's like, how many of those stories have we had?
Not enough.
I'm pretty sure
Almost
that's
every
what
science fiction story ever written.
It's like, I'm pretty sure that's what iRobot was, and AI, and like you said, every science fiction, 2001: A Space Odyssey,
Deus Ex.
Blade Runner, Deus Ex.
Yeah.
It was cool. I don't know. My beef with that one is David Cage can't write, and David Cage doesn't make good games, personally. But people like his shtick. I did enjoy my time playing Heavy Rain in the sense that I was at least intrigued by how many different ways that thing would change, right?
Right.
And the one thing I stand by this, I was like, games that have choices need that thing in Heavy Rain, where you need to make snap decisions, and sometimes it's not clear what button you need to press, because they would get blurry the quicker time was running out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, see, games need to replicate that more, because I feel like what they miss out on is when you present a hard choice to the player, you can do the Chris thing, which is like, you ponder deep into your soul for like 7 hours before you make this decision.
Yep.
Right? Like the scenario I bring up is like if Mass Effect 3 came down to, do you save planet Earth or do you save the rest of the galaxy?
If only that had been the final choice.
Yeah. It would be ham-handed as all fuck, but it would bring you down to a fucking still, at least for a second. 'Cause of all the different things you would kill in that span, it's like you're killing your entire race, like your planet, versus the rest of the universe, and whatever. It's stupid and silly, but you get what I'm saying. Like you would have time to think. Now put a fucking time limit on people, and they need to make that decision quick, which is how that decision would be made, because you need to make it with a sense of urgency, right?
Yeah.
So that's a thing I wish more games with choices did, instead of letting you have all that time to think. I think too often we let the player think too much. And I get that players don't want to be put in a choice like, it was rushed. It's like, here's the problem. In life, when you make choices, a lot of your decisions are made on the fly because of a gut reaction. Like, you do it on instinct. You know what I mean? And I want games to replicate that a little bit. So, in that context, hopefully David Cage makes a good game. It's not like the first half of Indigo Prophecy was a bad game.
Oh, I love the first half.
Then the second half happened.
Well, sometimes Mayans gotta kill people, you know?
Then there's people that swear by Omicron, the Nomad Soul. I don't think that game's good either, but yeah, whatever. He's making a new game. Dreams was shown. Michelle Ancel of Beyond Good and Evil and Rayman fame is making a game for the PlayStation 4. I believe it is a first-party/second-party project with Sony. It's called Wild, and it seems like it's another one of these open-world, like, wildlife, prehistoric type deals. It looks really good. It looked fun. I think you should look at that, because that man can actually make a good fucking game. What else was shown? Trying to remember.
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky looks like it got a visual bump.
Looks pretty.
Yeah. Don't know if the guy who doesn't look people in the eye was on stage, but yeah.
I think it was just a trailer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And a reveal of a release window.
He can't be trusted.
No, he can't be. I told you.
Street Fighter V got a release date, and it highlights that, oh my god, February 2016 is pretty loaded. Because it's XCOM 2, Mirror's Edge, Street Fighter V, and I'm forgetting the other game. There was the Gearbox multiplayer game, which I think is actually going to do well. Plus, it's a new IP. There's one other game I'm forgetting for that month. Can't put my finger on it. Oh, well, whatever. The point is, it's pretty loaded. Oh, Far Cry 4, or 5. 50. Who knows?
Is it Far Cry 5 or just the hunting?
The
one?
Far Cry Primal.
Yeah.
So Far Cry 5. Let's not.
Well, maybe.
I mean, come on. That's not right.
It's no 5 on it.
Yeah.
There will be a Far Cry 5. It'll be different from this one.
You think so? You think that's how they do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so Far Cry Primal, XCOM 2. That's a loaded month all of a sudden. And, like, again, XCOM is a long-ass game. Street Fighter is a time commitment. Because just to learn the mechanics, and we're going to play the shit out of that multiplayer.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Get beat up by El Joza.
Get beat up by El Joza and Ben. Oh, Brian might get it. Brian, beats them, and then we have decent matches with him. What else? And then, yeah, again, Far Cry is a time sink because it's an Ubisoft game. I was about to say, like, the shortest game that month is fucking Mirror's Edge.
Yeah, that'll be pretty short.
Yeah, and then, like, maybe... and then Mighty Number 9 is also supposed to be that month, but... That's
getting delayed.
Yeah, that's got that Inafune stench. But the crazy thing is, like... March is Uncharted 4's month, so it's like, we're getting a really strong Q1 pretty soon.
I bet that's when we get the Witcher 3 expansion too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was an okay showing. I wasn't mostly impressed by anything because there wasn't a lot to be impressed by. I also didn't see all of it necessarily. I eventually just started skipping stuff because I was like, I'm coming back to this later. But I don't know. It's okay.
A lot of it was just reminding us of what is coming out.
Yeah, 2016 might be the year we think 2015 is supposed to be. I mean, who knows? Maybe the second half of that year will slow down. But it does feel like...
All the games that got pushed out of this year, they're coming next year. It's going to be real.
Yeah. Persona!
What I was saying is, it's finally starting to look like we're in... Games are coming. These machines are now officially going to hit their stride. It's still going to be...
Said that last year?
Yeah, I think they sort of did.
I mean, this year you had no shortage of games to play. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, this year I think what we weren't used to was that the downloadable front is getting a little bit more varied than we're used to. Mm-hmm. We're not giving it credit. And in my case, because, I played PC games, and now you play PC games, Chris. Games like Divinity and Wasteland were last year games that just got to the PS4 this year. Talos Principle. They're good fucking games. They're fantastic in certain cases. And so they add a lot to the library. And in fact, it hurts the Xbox One that it didn't get, I think it didn't get Talos Principle.
No, it didn't.
I might be wrong.
No, it didn't.
But, yeah. It did?
Nope.
Yeah, see, there you go. That hurts. So the Xbox One is outside of Halo, it's been a long year. Yeah. A lot of our bad-mouthing of these consoles comes from the fact that these consoles only matter. A lot of the bad-mouthing comes from me, and B, these consoles only matter to me from an exclusive standpoint, and they have had barely any that were good outside of Bloodborne. So.
And Halo 5 is pretty good.
Yeah, Halo 5 is good. Halo 5 is back on track, but Halo 5 suffers from... I mean, in both cases, Halo 5 suffers from, oh god, they made another Halo. And Bloodborne, I mean, I can't... It's a new IP, but, they made Dickensian Dark Souls. So
a year after all these other Dark Souls games came out.
None of which were good.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Oh, I'm not talking about Dark Souls 2. I thought you were talking about the knockoffs, like Lord of the Fallen.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I like Dark Souls 2.
No, Dark Souls 2 is still a good game. It's just, it's the Metroid Prime 3 of the franchise.
Yeah.
Being the Metroid Prime 3 of the franchise is more, it's like being the younger brother to, two valedictorians.
Right.
It's you probably were really good at, and you got, a nice 3.0 and ended up in a good college, and it's yeah, you're not bad, it's just, your siblings are better than you.
Or Bill Gates and...
Yeah.
Other Bill Gates.
Other Bill Gates. Steve Jobs.
No.
I don't know. Steve Jobs made money. Anyway, yeah, I mean, so with PlayStation stuff, I would recommend go look at some of the trailers of the newer stuff just to be caught up in the loop. But that is what it is, and we return the floor back to William, because you played stuff that we didn't get into last week.
I did. And I also played a new game. I completely forgot about that.
Shoot.
I got Kira Yoshi's Woolly World for her birthday.
That game is so fucking adorable.
Oh my god, it's so I really like the way that it does. Have either of you played it?
No.
No, I want to.
It's actually a lot of fun. We're at the second world now. I think there's only 5, but the levels are really clever. Basically, the way that the game does difficulty is it challenges you to collect a bunch of different items. Mm-hmm. So, one item, you have, bolts of yarn that you can collect, and if you collect all the bolts of yarn, the Yoshis have been, turned into bolts of yarn. If you collect all the bolts of yarn in a level, you can rebuild a Yoshi. Mm-hmm. And then you can use that Yoshi to play the game with. But then you can also collect these little, happy flower things, and that gives you a score bonus and bonus mini-games that you play at the end of the level. And then the other thing it challenges you to do is to complete the level at full health. And you don't start at full health, you start at half health. but as you go through the level, you like get checkpoints and find items that you can get up to full health, and then that's all stacked against like a completion. So it's a fairly easy game. Like you don't have a life limit or anything like that. You can come back, but if you really want to like master a level and see all the stuff that it has and like really do well at it, like it adds the difficulty of, okay, I can do this, but I can't get hit, but I have to find all the stuff. It's a lot of fun. Mechanically, it's kind of like Yoshi's Story, and that most of your like a lot of it comes from like throwing mechanics, like throwing eggs.
Yeah, it's Yoshi's Island.
Yeah. I think of Yoshi's Story, I don't know why. I played that game way too much as a kid, and it's not that great. But when you like grab an enemy with Yoshi's tongue, they turn into a ball of yarn.
I know, it's so great.
It is. And then you carry these balls of yarn around with you and you can throw them. And you have to, like, you'll see little outlines of stuff. Like, it could be a platform or, like, a windmill that needs its, big fan thing. The windmill bit that spins, you need to, like, make the blades for the windmill out of the yarn that you have. So it's got a lot of really cool design ideas, and then sometimes you just get to turn into, like, a huge Yoshi and stomp through the level, and it's really fun. It's really good. Very lighthearted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Kirby game, Epic Yarn, because they made it, well, partially because it was so easy, but, like, that look of that game was, first and foremost, adorable. And I really like that their solution to doing it with Yoshi wasn't to have him be outlined yarn again. They made it, like, a full yarn thing. Like, they filled in the character a bit more. And all that does is just, like, add to it. It really gives the game, like, this really good, like, quilt look. And then the thing with Epic Yarn was I kept going, I was like, man, if these game mechanics were better and the fucking difficulty was there, this game would be one of the more imaginative and better playing platformers from Nintendo. Because it's so creative in some ways. But because it was so boring to play, I was like, listen, you can only get so far from being cute after a certain point.
Yeah, you know and that's how I kind of felt about it too, and admittedly, I've only played like the first 5 or 6 levels, but Yoshi's Woolly World is not that game. It's basically all the stuff that you like about Epic Yarn, but like it's not stupidly easy, or you know, like it doesn't like try to be like cute.
Yeah, because they both try to do the whole get collecting thing, but from my understanding, Woolly World gives you more of an incentive to collect things, and it makes them a little bit more interesting. Epic Yarn had them, but I feel like it's always because Kirby games have always been the remedial platformer series in a weird way for Nintendo. Like, that entire franchise is aimed at borderline babies at this point. Like, people like Kirby, but like the facts are the facts.
Right, yeah, no, for sure. He's definitely, Kirby is baby's first platformer without being negative.
Yeah. Donkey Kong is the mean one.
Danky?
Yeah, Donkey Kong has been having there's no way the Tropical Freeze game is not their hardest platformer since their SNES days.
Man, Donkey Kong is
Sunshine?
abusive. It's abusive.
Yeah, Donkey Kong doesn't fuck around. But that's, I kind of like that about Donkey Kong, that Donkey Kong is sort of like the purist's game.
Yeah, no, it's really good. But Yoshi's Woolly World is really good. And the Yarn Yoshi amiibo is the most adorable thing in the world. So
isn't it? Oh my god, I almost humored the idea of buying it.
Yeah, I got like the version of the game that came with one for Kira, and she thinks it's really cool. But
his
yeah,
nose is just so it swirls.
Yeah, it's I mean, but it's literally Gagan. It's literally made out of yarn.
I know.
Like, I initially thought that it would be plastic, but no, it's literal, like kind of like made to look like yarn, but it's literal yarn.
Yeah. That's
like,
awesome.
you could knit this thing into something else.
That's so awesome.
That's a ripping good yarn.
Nice. Nice.
Wow, Chris.
No, I mean, I love the look of that game. If we did a best graphics thing this year, I would be the asshole who's like, no, Woolly World over The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 looks great, but fuck you, this game's awesome. It makes me feel good inside.
Yeah, no, it plays really nicely, and it's just it's really good. Like it's constantly engaging and like trying fun things with the levels. So
Undertale is the best graphical game of the year.
I would nominate it just to piss off Phil.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get it. The things it does with it, its aesthetic is what's important. That's why we have to reward it. It's not what it looks like. It's how it uses that look. To
I love it.
piss you the fuck off.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Phil would come kill you. But otherwise, I played Dragon Ball Xenoverse some more.
Well, he'd be a scumbag and be like, we gotta put Metal Gear Solid 5 here. And I'm like, Metal Gear Solid 5 looks good. It was really good in spots, but I wouldn't...
Looks last gen-y in some spots.
Yeah, it definitely wears its cross-gen roots. I mean, it's got the scale, but I feel like of the lookers this year, it's like a 3-horse race, actually. The Witcher 3, Yoshi Woolly World, and the game everyone seems to be forgetting, but it's beautiful as fuck, Ori and the Blind Forest.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I think Ori is probably the best looking game.
It's so fucking pretty.
Battlefront would be on there too.
Oh yeah, Battlefront looks really good too.
Battlefront.
Phil would complain that it's 900 feet on the fucking consoles.
When we're talking about PC versions
I was like,
all games, obviously.
Yeah, the PC version of Yoshi Woolly World.
Yeah.
Is
God,
fantastic.
that game at 1080p would be amazing though.
Yeah, I mean,
Ori's on PC.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. It's Yoshi's Woolly World is so good.
Yeah, but Ori is also 1080p and 60 frames on both systems, so that's like the one thing the Xbox One got right. Although it apparently has crushed blacks with the Xbox One, so I don't know. I don't care.
What does that mean?
The blacks come off like really, really sharp, kind of like God, I don't know how to describe this again. You know how like sometimes you're coloring and you get that scratchy look with the color?
Yes.
Okay, so sometimes the blacks look like that. They look really dark, and they like pop out more because they got that scratchy look going on.
Okay.
Yeah. Most articulate podcast of all time.
You know, like the scratch colors?
Yeah. How's Dragon Ball Xenoverse?
It's actually
also,
a lot.
wait, time out. Have you ever seen its GWC video review of that game?
Yeah.
I have.
It's
funny.
so dumb. I love the part. Where he treats the story the way you want everyone to treat the story, which is like you have to take on who gives and a fuck. And I was just dying the whole time.
Yeah, an a fuck. So funny.
Because he's right. Like, who cares? Kamehameha their ass.
Yeah.
How is that game? Is it fun?
It is fun. It's it's the best part of it is that like the story, which is not important, but like it's a cool setup because it allows you to like basically go play like every little bit.
Yeah.
Is that like the timeline for Dragon Ball is all messed up and you have to go fix it. So like
That's funny.
Like make the battles happen the way they were supposed to. So it's basically like an excuse to like live in this super cool city and fly around and beat everybody up whenever you want to. But it plays really, really nicely. It's actually got like a good amount of depth to it. It's not like there's 2 attack buttons, so it's not like super crazy deep, but like learning when to dodge and how the moves work and how you can chain things and stuff is really cool, and it controls very nicely, which is like one of the things that Dragon Ball games have kind of had an issue with, is like if flying doesn't feel good, then you've kind of made a shitty Dragon Ball game, you know? But it controls really nicely, it's a lot of fun, it doesn't take itself seriously at all, which is great.
Halo.
To be fair, Dragon Ball never takes itself seriously. Until G2.
Yeah.
When we act like that doesn't count.
But like but I think it's like kind of like people forget that it doesn't take itself seriously, but it's like it's making fun of itself at like every turn. It's just really well put together, and all the systems work together to like customize your character and build them up, and the RPG progression is really nice, and it's a lot of fun. It's a little bit grindy. Like if you want to get the best stuff, it's grindy, but otherwise
it's an RPG.
Yeah, but otherwise it's just really, really like a fun brawling game that you can play. Shoot lasers at people.
Don't play it if you're a beat 'em up fan. Play it if you like Dragon Ball Z, though.
Yeah. If you're like a pure beat 'em up fan, you probably won't like it. But if you want like something that's fun and you have an affinity for that series, then you'll have a good time.
Yeah. It's like the notch above Dynasty Warriors, but let's not get carried away. That's the way I would put it. That's the way I describe it. It is funny though. I do like. I played it a bit on like the demo, and I'm like, I'll go rent this from GameFly. This looks like something stupid I want to tolerate.
Yeah, it's definitely like the tone is really, I think, one of the best parts of
I
it.
think the last DBZ game I had was
Budokai?
One of the Tenkaichi ones for the Wii. Because
Budokai 3 was...
who the fuck didn't want to do a command? It was literally when the Wii launched, because I wanted to be like, no, do you have to do the hand motion? Because, like,
Oh my god.
I'll do it.
That's amazing.
Like, no fucking way, I will do this. And then, like, whatever. You do it the first time, and you're like, yeah, I'll just flick the wrist real quick. It's not that serious.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's a lot of fun. And it was a fun game to go back to, and it's a really easy game to pick up again.
Yeah.
Which is good, because, you know, some games you go back to them and you're like, what happened? What am I doing?
Yeah. It's one of those things like that reminds you, like, maybe not all games need to be good, great, or special. They could just be, like, good old-fashioned, like, fuck it, I just want to kill time and have fun.
Not all games.
Yeah, like, sometimes yeah. What did I say? What did I say? Not all games?
Yeah. No, it's what Chris said.
I don't get it.
It's okay.
I understood, Chris. I understood.
Whatever.
It'll take too long to explain, and it's really not, like, funny enough to justify the explanation.
Whatever.
But yeah, it's a great, like, time-killing game, and especially if it's a really great palate-cleansing game. Like, if you've just come off, like, a really, like, intense game like Metal Gear Solid or The Witcher, or something that requires a lot of time investment and, like, mastery of mechanics, and you just want to, like, relax and put in a game and, like, kill a couple hours doing stuff that's not, like, super, like, intellectually engaging, but still a lot of fun and requires just enough to keep you in it throughout, like, that's the game for you.
That's the thing I've learned from making my attempt at this 52-game challenge this year and then, like, failing miserably at it, is that after Bloodborne, I didn't want to play fucking shit. I was so spent, because, like, we played, like, not only did I play that game, like, I played it, like, I was fucking intoxicated on that game for, like, a fucking week, right? And then, like, I didn't want to play a game for a month, because I was just like, I'm exhausted by the end of it. And then, like, Metal Gear Solid 5 was the same way. Once I did everything that game had to offer, I just took a few weeks off. I was just like, oh. I played Rocket League here and there with Ben, but, like, otherwise, I didn't start a single-player game for a while. So I am learning that next year, if I'm really going to make another run at it, because gotta get it done at least once in a lifetime. But gotta have some sort of palate cleanser. And it's gotta be fun, which is the other part. Yeah. Playing a boring game just
kills it harder.
Yeah, it just makes you not want to do it. Like, I played Ho-Ho Come and an unfinished one, and they're like these artsy-fartsy games, and they're just so fucking dull. You know what I mean? Like,
should have gone to Ori after that.
Ori might have been a better pick in the sense that it would have been a great game to play after Bloodborne.
Ori's challenging, though.
But it's challenging. So like, after Bloodborne, I want to be like, fuck. It's like, I don't want to play anything hard after I beat Master of Ninja Gaiden 2. I made sure I played, like...
Journey. Just go play Journey every time.
Oh, yeah, I should play Journey.
Yeah.
Journey's good for that. Or Flower, or...
Just a relaxing.
Or
Can't die.
Yeah. Or... Telltale's games would be good for this type of stuff if it weren't for the fact that they have their pixel hunty moments.
Yeah, I played Wolf Among Us, I think, after Witcher 3, because just I wanted to play, like, a quick...
Just relax. The whole time you're not invested super hard.
Right.
Plus, I can gamepad that game, and it's like sometimes I don't want to play an FPS, because all my FPSs are on a mouse and on a PC, but I don't want to play on the mouse and keyboard, and I'm not gonna be one of those scumbags who plays the FPS on a PC on a gamepad. I was like, the day I do that is the day I am directly responsible for the death of fun in video games.
The death of games. Yeah, the only smart thing I'm not doing is I'm going from Hearts of Stone to Arkham Knight.
I actually think Arkham Knight isn't... Well, because, like, Heart of Stone isn't, like... I don't think it's as exhausting as The Witcher 3 is.
Right, because I'm more focused on one aspect of a story.
Because on some level, I do agree with Phil. He was probably right. Trying to do all 3 Witcher games, I would have hated The Witcher 3.
Yeah, that was...
Because the first Witcher is so fucking long and so fucking boring. And then, like, by the time I get to the third game, like, there was no getting around the fact that I'm not gonna like the game mechanics.
I actually played Witcher 2 and Witcher 3 back to back.
That helps, I think.
Yeah, and I really liked that.
Well,
it was because
again,
Witcher 2 is more linear, though.
Yeah.
And so, it doesn't play well, but it is easier to play in comparison to The Witcher 1.
Yeah.
Whereas The Witcher 1 has, like, really long stretches of gotta go do the alchemy thing, gotta go do the homework, and blah, blah, blah. So, I like the way you put that, William. Palate cleansing games.
Yeah, you do. You just need that little game in there that breaks. Like, I probably should play. Maybe I'll go beat Blast Core before I go into.
Yeah. That's what Rare Replay would be good for, you asshole. Is just like giving you a palate cleanser game here and there.
No, I gotta beat that whole thing.
You gotta beat the whole thing. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah.
After I beat Arkham Knight, I might go back to it and just finish off the N64 era.
Yeah. The other problem is sticking with a game a week is like, oh my god.
That's so fast. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's fast. That's the other thing. You gotta do it in chunks. And then, if you're not liking the game, oh my god. Is it terrible? Because now that, like, once the 52 thing wore off, I'm like, alright, there's no way I'm gonna make a run at it. I'm still sitting on the Dying Light part where I'm like, alright, I'm gonna finish this game. Because I've rented it for so long. And I'm still stuck at the part where I left off the last time I said I've rented it for so long. Because I don't like that game. And I'm like, why the fuck do you like this, Towers? He's like, I didn't even call it that good! I'm like, it read positive when I read your review.
A lot of people will go to bat for that game.
Yeah, and I'm like, why?
I don't know. I think they like parkour and zombies.
Yeah, but I'm like,
Gagan, just give it up. It's okay that you rented it and didn't play.
It's annoying, no, because I paid more in rental fees than I did for buying the game. I might as well just bought the game at that point.
You have to beat every game you play.
Yeah, and then plus I'm always like that on some level. It's the only reason
if
I
I
have finished Mafia 2.
If
I know, but don't you regret that?
On some level.
If I can beat Bravely Default.
If anything, that's always been my argument against Final Fantasy 13. I was like, Final Fantasy 13 is so bad, even I didn't want to finish that game's bullshit.
I beat that too.
I'm gonna beat that at some point.
Why?
There's no reason to beat that.
I actually don't.
It's one of Endless Backlog's worst endings of the last gen.
It deserves it. Oh my god, Ben's description of that ending.
I don't hate it. Like, I want to finish it. I don't know. I just want to finish it. I can't.
Anyway, what was after Dragon Ball?
The other big thing that I played, aside from the game that shall not be named,
right,
was Heroes of the Storm.
Right. Blizzard made a MOBA.
Yeah, and I really like it, and I don't like MOBAs that much.
Right. Partially because the games like Hearthstone is made for people who don't want to play a MOBA.
Yeah, and I played way too much League of Legends, and kind of ended up hating myself.
Yeah. Matthew doesn't like it when I say, I was like, Heroes of the Storm is, oh right, they made a MOBA without the depth of a MOBA, and he gets offended. I'm like, but that's a statement of fact. That is what Heroes of the Storm is. It is for the lack of a better term, a more streamlined version of those games. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game. It doesn't. But if we're talking pure, richer gameplay, like Dota 2 wins. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I don't know if, like...
And I don't think they could have competed if they had tried to make a Dota 2. That would have been the stupidest route they could have gone.
No, and, you know, when they made development of it, they were like, we wanted to take it somewhere interesting. And so, like, the big way that... For those of you who are not familiar with Heroes of the Storm, the big way that it's different is there's no equipment that you buy, and the maps are very different from one another. So instead of getting gold when you kill something or kill minions or whatever it is, experience is shared throughout the entire team.
Mm-hmm.
So you're all kind of tied together. So if one person isn't doing that well, it's not just like we can just power over him and still win. It's like, no, he's kind of holding everybody back. And the other thing... You okay, Chris?
I'm dying.
And the other thing is that when you level up, like in a normal MOBA, you just get your skills and you choose what order you want your skills to be in. In Heroes, you start out with all your skills except like your big ultimate skill.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you level up and the more the team levels up, you get talents. And your talents change the way that your characters play. So like you'd have like a choice of like maybe 4. Like this one will make your healing better. Like this one will give you a passive thing. This one will give you a different passive thing, and this will give you something else. And then as you level up, you pick these things, and that really determines like how your character plays. So it's really different. The other big thing is that like the maps are really objective based. Like one of the maps, like at certain times, like there's like a big raven god, and like the raven god will spawn little ravens, and you have to go collect the little ravens and bring them to the raven god. And if you do this, then this big badass raven god will go kill shit for you for like a limited time. Or like there's one where like these two, like there's like a demon and an angel are fighting. And, like, you have to protect one of them. And if your character wins, basically you have to go kill the other one, then he will go destroy stuff for you. And it's a huge advantage. So it really, like, emphasizes teamwork and, like, let's go do the objectives. And, you know, you really have to, like, watch the map and where everybody is on the map. And positioning is hugely important and how the objectives are. And each map is different because each map is different. So... it's really cool. It's a really unique MOBA.
I wish I liked MOBAs more.
Yeah. I don't know. But it's like, that's what you had to do to, like, actually survive in that space. Like, people went about it the wrong way. They tried to do the exact same thing everyone did when World of Warcraft got famous. Which was, let's just make that game. That'll totally draw money. It's like, no! Don't do that!
That game already exists, and it has 14 million players.
Yeah,
why
like
would they come over to your game?
Why would they come over to your game? And it's like, do something different, and you'll get an audience. And
Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 14, Guild Wars 2. I mean, whatever. They're all working on the WoW formula. Like, EVE Online is the only thing that's, like, really, like, wildly different from World of Warcraft. But that's also because EVE Online is for crazy people. The best crazy people.
I love you crazy people.
You're the greatest.
Just don't come to my house.
That is the second Endless Backlog game. The one we haven't played, but we all were like, no, fuck that. That game is awesome. No, here's the storm. It's kind of like Smite. Like Smite is a more action-y game with the way it's doing, like the way it controls.
Yeah.
It adds a lot to, like, that game sticks out. You know, it's unfortunate that Tribes Ascend had to take one for the team for that game, but whatever.
You know, they've actually started updating Tribes again.
Yes, I know. I'm thinking about reinstalling it. I love that game.
Yeah, I reinstalled it the other day. But but
Xbox One playing Smite.
Yeah?
Yeah, really weird.
You enjoy it?
No, I've never played. I just see so many people on my friends list always playing Smite, and I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah. Well, you gotta play something on the Xbox One sometimes.
So, Chris, you know how most, like, MOBAs have, like, a top-down view of your character, right?
Yep.
So Smite, you're in third person, and you're directly controlling. You're not, like, clicking, and then the character will go there. Like, you're in direct control.
It's like a third person over the shoulder game.
Okay.
Yeah. And it changes it completely because you really have to be careful about, like, where you are on the map because you can't see behind you.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, the object of being stealthy and, like, sneaking behind your team to kill them is way more dangerous, and it's a lot scarier.
Yeah, let me put it this way, Chris. That game has actual deathmatch in it.
Nice.
So, like, it's pretty much scumbag multiplayer on top of, like, proper MOBA. Anyway, let's get into the wrapping up phase. We'll go with question from Angels and Demons. Although, did you share the story that you played StarCraft in a hospital, William?
No.
Right. Really? I thought you would.
No.
You were hurt, weren't you, or something? Not in the hospital.
No. The one that I was really messed up during was Butcher Bay.
Butcher Bay, right.
Mm-hmm.
What's that noise?
Oh, it's something rubbing against my laptop. I apologize. It's a piece of paper fell.
Okay.
That's the loudest piece of paper ever. No, Towers shared his version of the story, and he apparently played a lot of StarCraft because he had a minor surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And he needed several months of recovery. And then he's like, damn, I play a lot of games in a hospital. I'm like, why the fuck are you always in a hospital?
God damn, I need to get some surgeries, get some game time in.
Right? Like, this is the only way to beat 52 games.
I'm gonna go crash my car now. So what was the question?
Yeah, what's the question?
No, actually, I'd like to first and foremost, Angels Demons believes that William is the only one with the soul. We need to debunk that myth entirely. William lived in Florida, and no one that has ever lived in Florida has a soul.
He is an extension of Florida, man.
Yeah.
Wow, Chris, that is the most hurtful thing you've ever said to me.
So, you need to end that myth right the fuck now. He also argued that instead of token, most fancy boils down to the Bible, and he said all offense to religious listeners aside.
Shit.
I'm like, yeah, sort of, but like I feel like that's any story when you think about it. A lot of stories do. The person's faith has played some role in creating that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just not just but religious myth in general kind of permeates everything. Like every culture has a flood story, you know, and that's just become such a huge part of like worldwide myth.
If you look into Lord of the Rings, like Sauron is basically an angel cast down from heaven.
Yeah, but you know. What I was saying was, and I think what Gagan has said as well, is that basically like the fantasy genre as we think of it now, all the books and films and TV shows and all that stuff is kind of like built on the foundation of Lord of the Rings, and how you kind of judge it is like, is it different from Lord of the Rings or is it similar, and why?
Yeah, and you know, it's basically one of those things. You take Lord of the Rings out of the equation. It's not that the fantasy universes wouldn't have existed, it's that they would be profoundly different than what they are today.
Yeah.
Anyway, the question he asked was, given that Titanfall and more recently Battlefront has been criticized by their lack of a campaign, yet many arguably tout that COD should be multiplayer only, who draws the line for when a campaign is necessary to a game's success? Chris.
Sorry, read that question again?
Let's go with, where does one draw the line for when a campaign is necessary to a game's success?
Oh, okay.
Like, should a game be multiplayer only like Titanfall or Battlefront?
I would say, because I'm a very, I'm a big believer in context, that I need to know why this stuff is happening. So if the multiplayer seems to have some, like, the reason I have a problem with Titanfall's campaign, and just the multiplayer side is because it seems like there is this big universe and there's all these characters that I should be caring about, but the campaign, quote unquote, gives me no further context into any of that. And now I just don't understand why I should care about any of things. Like, I actually don't think that Star Wars Battlefront needs a campaign, and I know I'll catch a lot of flack for that, but I already know the context. I got it. I know Star Wars.
Right.
Like, I know why we're on Hoth.
Yeah.
I've seen the movies.
Like, the larger issue with Battlefront is, like, now make the multiplayer good.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's an issue. But yeah, I guess it comes down to, also, how in-depth is your multiplayer? Like, how many modes, how many matches, or how many maps, that kind of thing. Because if you're selling a game with like 15 maps, 3 game modes, $60, what are you doing? What are you doing here?
Titanfall was that.
Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, the 15 maps was a lot when you think about it.
Yeah, a lot of games launch with maybe 10 or 11, yeah.
Yeah, I get. Well, yeah, we're at 11 then. 11 and 3 game modes. Because
no, Titanfall had 15. Like straight up.
But yeah,
no, you're not wrong. Like the reason Titanfall died, though, not died, but like the way people were like, "Oh, that game became called Ghost Town," was largely because there wasn't a lot to it after a certain point. Like, there's not a lot to the skill ceiling, right? So like the uber competitive crowd isn't staying around in their elitist glory, right?
Right.
There weren't a lot of game modes.
Here's the thing I don't understand with people that complain about no single player, and I love single player only games, so this is weird coming from me. But what do you think a single player would add to these games? Like, do you think like people are gonna play it longer because of a single player?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Isn't like there's statistics from every game developer that they say that people who buy Call of Duty only like fucking like 20, like some really low ass number even touch the single player?
Yeah.
So then, who cares if it's taken out?
Yeah.
Again, I think it's more one of those things of people complain about it when it's taken out.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you're super into COD campaigns, I feel for you, right?
Right,
like,
yeah.
You know, I guess they took away a thing you like. You know, that's not, you know, trust me,
That's not
none
cool.
of us are going with that. But we're saying, like, personally, like, my stance has always been this. It's like, I care about, like, if we believe that single-player only games are a thing, and they should be a thing, then we should be cool with multiplayer only games. In fact, we should absolutely allow that to be a thing. Because in certain cases, why does Battlefield even have a single player?
Right. Like, can you think of Bad Company or Bad Company's 2? People really like Bad Company 1's campaign, fine. But Bad Company's 2 campaign, like, who cares?
It was Call of Duty.
Yeah, just take it out. And especially with Battlefront, do you remember Star Wars Battlefront 1 and 2? They barely had campaigns either.
Yeah, they weren't real single players. Like, Republic Commando had a campaign.
Yeah, if you made a Republic Commando and there was no single player, that's a reason to be angry.
Yeah. In that case, like, you made a sequel to a game and then, like, you didn't give me the thing, you didn't improve upon the first game. You just did something and gave it the same name.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like with Battlefront really seemed like a game to bring into this new generation of online is a big deal.
Yeah.
And just scrap the thing that the whole reason Battlefront was a single player game is because we didn't have online back then.
Right. Well,
But we do.
well,
So
and
but
Battlefront had online.
yeah, but it was like shitty.
But yeah, I would say the larger reason is, I mean, it had a fake campaign. It didn't even have a real one. Like
Yeah, that's what I mean. So what? Like, because guess what? If they put it in there, exactly. If they put it in there, what would be the number one complaint about that game? Guess what the number one complaint about Battlefront would be if they had a campaign like that.
Campaign sucks.
The campaign's not that good because
so
it's a Dutch
what's
campaign.
the fucking point?
Yeah.
Win if you lose if you do, lose if you don't.
Yeah, and it's like the thing people remember about Battlefront is the multiplayer. Like, the thing you must now deliver on is the multiplayer. Larger issue, if I can bounce off of like what you're saying, is like, you know, I'm not the biggest gameplay per square inch guy, but at the same time, like $60 to a lot of people means you need to give me some semblance of content.
And that's totally fair. I think
And-
that's the larger issue, like you said.
Which is like Titanfall. I want to, like, I'll defend that game over Call of Duty any day of the week. I think Titanfall is absolutely better than any of the recent Call of Duties, and I wouldn't put it over Modern Warfare 1.
I wouldn't-
But there's no denying that Call of Duty gives you more of a game at the end of the day. Like, you have
Right.
so many modes. You have that stupid meta game everyone likes playing. I don't. That's not my thing. Like, people complain that Titanfall doesn't have enough guns, and that's technically true. I personally don't think that's a game design issue, because it actually, like, part of why that game works is because there's not a lot of guns. But at the same time, the whole time I was thinking, I was like, you made this game with this cool parkour stuff and mechs, and it's like you sort of pulled punches with the mechanics a little bit. I felt like they could have had more crazy mechs, for instance. Right. We kept saying it, like, other than Last Titan Standing, does anything in this game feel like, no, that's Titanfall. That feels different. Right? Like, Warzone, even if it's taking MOBA sensibilities in Halo 5, it still feels like it's got, you make the obvious Battlefield comparison, but then it's not Battlefield because of the Halo aspect of it.
Right. Like, you're going up against brutes and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it got to a point in Titanfall, I'm like, the thing that really makes Titanfall go is that these mechanics are good, and this map design is immaculate. Because I didn't think there was a single bad map in that game.
I can't think of a bad map.
Yeah.
No, there's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just wish that they took it that level further.
Yeah. Like, again, it was a good game, but the problem in multiplayer is great games last, good games die in a month.
Yeah, because here's the thing. These downloadable games that are only single player, like 10 hours, they're $20, let's say, like an Ori and the Blind Forest. I'm not saying a multiplayer only game has to be $20, $40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
$40.
$60.
They could be budgeted better. The other thing, Titanfall didn't look good. Battlefront is, there's no nice way to put it. That game is a fucking scam. The way it's priced. It's less content. They've stripped things out. They're clearly rushing to make to a movie.
That season pass.
Yeah, it's the season pass is almost as expensive as the game.
Yep.
And then we're talking about a multiplayer game that, I mean, it's shallow. You know, which, whatever, that was what Battlefront was, yes, but then again, as we said, Battlefront had so much content. at the same
A lot of maps.
You know what I mean? Evolve, the big thing with that game was they pissed people off with the way they were handling DLC. You know what I mean? I don't think you could release a Halo without the campaign because there is a vocal community that will bitch.
Right.
And rightfully so, because the franchise, like, why are you taking things away?
I'm shocked that they took away online co-op or like online split screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can see why, but you can't even play the single player split screen. That's pretty,
just terrible.
Man.
That's pretty messed up.
Split screen should have never died on consoles. And I get it's like you're making it for a niche audience at this point, but come on. Yeah. So again, I think multiplayer only games have a place.
Yep.
But like anything else, like we keep coming back to AAA space, not all games should be $60. Maybe multiplayer games should not be $60.
Well, I don't think so.
You know, I don't feel that's necessarily fair because I absolutely think there are multiplayer games that at their $60 are far more validated than some 80-hour RPG that plays like shit. Not gonna name names, Bethesda, or but life's not fair, and people at the end of the day, like the market's spoken. Bethesda gives us this amount of hours, we will pony up because they give us all this game to play, right?
Right.
Whether you like it or not, it is what it is. The market
per square inch crowd is very large.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, and some of that's got to be validated. I think. As much as I like to harp on about people who are responsible for the death of fun in video games, my sort of laissez-faire attitude to fucking, how big the game is, on some level, we could blame me for things like, why has the value of my money more or less decreased when it comes to how much I buy these games? You know what I mean? Feels like $60 games for a good stretch were not giving me $60 of content. And this year, there's at least 2 examples of games that, no, fuck you.
But then I guess, for every one of those games, we got a Witcher 3 or Metal Gear Solid 5.
Metal Gear Solid 5 should be shorter, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Or Bloodborne.
Bloodborne, for sure.
Yeah. What else was there? There was a few other. But
well,
Monster Hunter 4 and... I guess it's basically the same scenario. It's just...
Yeah.
It's about context. I'm not super sold on your one where I need context for the situation, but because the multiplayer game's good, I don't care. But I'm that way with single player too. Like I zone out of the story the second I think it's shit.
Right.
So almost instantaneously
with most things. But again, I would argue there are bad stories or bad plots with good narrative beats to them. Like, I wouldn't necessarily go to bat for Wolfenstein's plot, but I was engaged by those characters. I liked the tone of that game. I didn't like the monologues. I made my displeasure with that game, that aspect of the game, pretty obvious. But, I paid attention during that game. Whereas at The Witcher 3, I pay attention to everything that game's been saying. With games I don't pay attention, I go listen to a podcast and play the game. With The Witcher 3, I'm like, fuck. I gotta go play something else so I can actually go listen to this podcast because the way I pay attention. It's actually refreshing, I guess.
To be invested,
Yeah, just because, I feel like...
just you wait. You wait.
I feel like we had a good stretch where we had a good string of games where it was, really easy to get invested in the plot. And then we had a good string of games where I was like, fuck the plot. That's just not even... A, they're not even trying, or B, it's super shit. In the case of, Bayonetta 2, I paid attention not because I care about the plot in those games, but I think Bayonetta is a fun character. I love everything.
Yeah.
Her reactions to things are entertaining. The ridiculousness of those games is fun. The plot isn't good in those games. In fact, I think Platinum would do better to tone that plot back a bit and just, highlight the crazy. And that's a context I feel like the Wonderful 101 is beautiful at, actually. Because, the plot is loony bin, but it's well-written loony bin shit, I feel like. It works.
Yeah. In regards to the question, I think what Chris said about context is important, but I also think it's, what the game is trying to do.
Yeah.
I mean, Titanfall, I think like I'm with Chris. Like I like context for things. Like when I played Titanfall, I was like, why do they have mechs? And I was kind of like interested in like why this could be.
Mm-hmm.
But like the core aim of Titanfall, and like you listen to the developers talk about it, was not like, oh, we had this really cool story, and then we thought we could make a cool game out of it. It was, what if we gave you these movement abilities and you had big ass robots? And then they tried to like force that into a campaign.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the ways that like certain games are designed, especially like Call of Duty nowadays, are like, what can we do that's interesting in a multiplayer space? And then they try to work that stuff into the campaign. But I think...
And that shit is just Bad Boys 2, the campaign, but now with a double jump.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it shows like what the developers' focus is. And in some cases, their focus is, maybe for Nintendo it's not the story, but like for Mario, what their focus is. They want to like create this curated play space for you.
Yeah.
They want you to explore and have fun in.
But the thing is, like, again, the Mario context is perfect. Like, you go save the princess from Bowser. Here's all the obstacles in your way to go save that bitch. And it works.
But
on the flip side, Zelda has more of a story. Fire Emblem has, like, all these characters. Like, the story in Fire Emblem is two kingdoms fighting. But, like, the real hook of Fire Emblem story is, like, learning about these characters, their relationships, and then, like, camaraderie and all that shit. And Metroid is exploring a space, so...
Yeah, and I mean, I think I would be all for more big multiplayer games that don't, like, try to shoehorn everything into a context or a narrative, or, like, just look at these cool ideas that we have that play around in the space.
What?
Are you alright, Chris?
No, we're laughing at whatever that... It sounds like... What is going on?
Seemed like he wrapped his dick in plastic.
Yeah, like, what?
What?
That scratching noise was back, or the paper that hit the laptop. Gotta be like,
quote unquote, the paper.
Yeah, you need to pick that laptop up and speak.
Here, I moved it. I'm sorry. It's a big pile of writing. But the point is that, like, I think if you have a great idea for a multiplayer game, absolutely go make that game, and I don't care about it having a campaign. But if your idea is like a curated play space, or like you have this really cool world that you want to explore, or something that you think would work with those mechanics, then make it. But I think that like sometimes we get so focused on like gameplay for square inch and how many hours is it going to take you and how much time can I sink into it, that it's like, who cares, Yeah. Like, if the campaign sucks, then nobody's going to go play it again. Like, look, nobody plays the Battlefield campaigns. Nobody would care if those were not there. I just, like, if you're going to make a multiplayer game, make it engaging, make it fun, and make it competitive enough that people want to keep playing. Like, make the match-to-match thing the reward.
And the case in the same way, I feel like in certain cases, you know what? Some of those games probably should have had multiplayer. The mechanics are good enough. Why didn't it have multiplayer? For instance... Wolfenstein: The New Order's mechanics, probably not good for multiplayer, even though Return to Castle Wolfenstein is a thing. However, the fact that Quake 4 has awful multiplayer, no matter how much people like that single player, is ludicrous. Because of fucking Quake 3 being a thing. Right? In the same context, like, The Order, not the most original shooter in the world, but why didn't that game have multiplayer of any kind?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
that
I feel like
genre fits. Vanquish, I was thinking of a game like that game begged to have some kind of a multiplayer.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you have to decide like if your mechanics are good for a multiplayer or good for something that, if your mechanics are meant to be exploited and broken, and I think Wolfenstein's are, then it's not good for multiplayer context. But if your mechanics are not that way, like Mario is meant to be exploited and broken and mastered. And I don't think it works in a multiplayer context unless it's something like Super Mario World or like where you're playing together or where you're playing one after the other.
Yeah, or like a Nintendo World Championship type deal.
Yeah,
time trials type thing. I mean, I don't know. That's a weird way to describe it, but I mean, my thing is just this: like, there's a place for single player only games, there's a place for multiplayer only games, and in some level, I want to see some more developers actually say, you know what, we're going to deliver both, because I think. Weirdly, people have, like, began, like, whatever, you get older, you get less time for multiplayer. people forget multiplayer adds replayability to a game. It highlights how good the mechanics are. Like, the people that say The Last of Us has bad gameplay, my thing has always been, yeah, if it had bad gameplay, that multiplayer wouldn't do well, but it did. Because those game mechanics are good. Whether you think they're great or not is debatable, but clearly there's something to the mechanics that adds a lot to the game. And in the case of Last of Us, it's such a different style of multiplayer, even though it's got, like, things I've seen in Counter-Strike, things I've seen in Call of Duty, or stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So long question, but...
Yeah.
Good question.
Simplest answer is, it's all about context, but, like, there's always a gray area to a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
One's gotta go.
Oh boy. Are you gonna... I
don't know. Does anyone have a good one? This long ass pause when we could be playing a video game. It's okay. I just sprung it on it. Wait, are you actually thinking?
I was thinking of, like, since we talked about, like, shooters so much, we could, like, pick 3 shooters.
Like Halo.
Oh, I've got one. Gagan, I've got one.
Shoot. William's gonna do our one gotta go this week. Go.
Unreal Tournament, Quake, or Tribes.
Fuck you. Fuck. You can't get rid of Quake because it effectively eliminates the other two.
So Quake's there.
So Quake has to stay, even though I like it the least.
This is a good one's gotta go.
Chris can't answer this. Chris has investment in neither series.
Yeah, I played Quake in Unreal Tournament, but I haven't played Tribes, so I guess Tribes is gone.
You are a monster. But Tribes is the one that has to go, because I can't get rid of Quake!
I can't mourn what I don't care about.
Oh, this is so asshole of you. This is so dick!
You have to get him back next time.
You can't get rid of Quake, which is the annoying part. I want to get rid of Quake. We can't.
I mean, like,
it ruins the entire space of multiplayer.
You know this is hard for me too, right?
I mean, listen, Unreal Tournament for life. I stand by that statement. To this day, that is the greatest multiplayer. Alright? This would be, like, so easy for me to go, no, get rid of Quake. Unreal was the greatest. But, you know, you can't realistically believe Unreal would exist without Quake.
We have to abide by the laws of this game.
Fuck you. Next week I'm doing Mario 64 versus Ocarina of Time like a dick.
Whoa!
Whoa. You already got me. Last time.
I have not been got.
I know. I thought I had you at least the last time, but no.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's really hard, and I was kind of, like, mad at myself after Gagan was like, fuck you, I have to think about this. And now it's like, man,
So the problem is Quake is in that weird, like I said, like the reason why I didn't bring up Mario and Zelda is because you take them out of existence, the entire, like, thing changes, the entire medium changes, right?
Right.
You can't talk about what multiplayer is in FPS games. It's Quake. In a lot of ways. Like Doom Deathmatch was a big deal, but Quake.
I mean, I think you could probably argue that Unreal would have come about in some form.
It changes so much, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, I think Unreal eventually would have sprung out of Doom or something like Unreal. Yeah. So I think you could make the argument that Quake is not as essential, but
like, in context, like, we can't, like, outright say it's not. Its influence is ridiculous in comparison.
Yeah. I don't know. Personally, I think it would have to be Unreal for me, would be the one that would go. I think Unreal 2K4 is an amazing game, like a seminal game, but I adore Quake 3 in a way that I don't adore other games because of how many mechanics go into making that game what it is. Like, everything from the movement to the jumping to the physics to, like, everything about that game is just so precise. And then Tribes 2 is a good chunk of my childhood, so I just can't. I love Tribes 2. There's never been another feeling as good as an FPS as skiing.
Getting rid of the greatest multiplayer game of all time, Unreal Tournament. This is madness! This is madness! We're done with this podcast! Please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. Probably by the time this is up, actually, this is probably way long up.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween. First of all, stay safe. Yada yada. I hope you stayed safe.
We will have articles up by the time this goes up.
Oh, and if you're a parent and you didn't take your kid out to get candy, you're a shitty parent.
Monster. The true monster of Halloween.
For real. You're worse than the scumbag for getting rid of Unreal Tournament, and that scumbag for getting rid of Tribes.
It had to be done.
Douchebags. I'm gonna ignore the part where I got rid of Tribes. Trust me, I wanted to get rid of Quake.
He's talking about himself, the douchebag who got rid of Tribes.
Yeah, I feel like, But, sometime before this, if this podcast is up, we also should have Kira's Retrolog on Metal Gear Solid and Gagan's review of
Sunset
Overdrive, and hopefully something by me on Metal Gear Solid 2. So.
Yeah. Otherwise,
nothing from me.
Nothing for Chris. He's on break. Well, he got a new job. So
yeah, I got a new job. Maybe I'll actually be able to right now, because I'm a supply teacher and I wake up every morning not knowing if I have to go to work.
Nice. Anyway, we are... Oh, yeah, shoot us questions at podcast@endlessbacklog.com.
Or in the comments.
Or hit me up on Twitter at GaganEB. Peace out.
Peace.